This is a League of Extremely Ordinary Gentlemen, .5 special. We've got here as an addendum to our Star Trek episode. I have Alan Porter here, who you might remember from the Staple interviews. And he talked about his comic books there, but here we're bringing him in to talk about his upcoming project, which should be out before San Diego Comic-Con, a book about the comics of Star Trek, something that I'm afraid that most of us were sadly uneducated on.
Or too drunk to talk about, one of the two.
Yeah, a combination of the two, I think,
Yes.
really. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you. It's great
Hello.
to be here.
Tell us a little bit about, what influenced you to write this? Have you been following these Star Trek comics the whole time?
What influenced me to write it was a phone call from my publisher saying, "Do you want to write a book about Star Trek comics?"
We will pay you actual money for doing so.
Yeah, and the fact there was a check attached was actually a great incentive.
That's so odd, because I would write a Star Trek book for the exact same reasons.
Yeah, but they have,
You would write one without getting paid.
that's probably
no
true.
publishers are calling me to write books about Star Trek. I'd do it.
You can barely read, though.
That's true.
You just, that you can't really write a book per se that is just pictures of you pointing to pictures of other things.
Well, that's how they train employees at fast food restaurants now.
Maybe it can be an audiobook.
That's true.
Well, Alan, were you reading a lot of this stuff from early on?
Actually, that's a real interesting point, because when I got the call from the publisher, my first initial reaction was, well, I'm not that much of a Trekkie. I don't really know much about this stuff. And then I sort of looked around my office, and then there was a Tribble on the bookcase, and there's a Next Gen com badge pinned on my whiteboard.
So you're kind of.
And I looked up, and there's a model of the Enterprise sitting on top of one of the bookcases. I'm thinking,
So essentially, you outed yourself.
yeah, I guess I am a Trekkie. So yeah, I'll go write it. I mean, I never really collected the Star Trek books, but the more I thought about it, I pretty much read them on and off. And when I did the research for the book, I actually came across the startling realization that I actually probably knew about Star Trek through the old British comics and the British Star Trek stories before I actually ever saw it on TV, which I hadn't really thought about. And the more I thought about it, I realized that there was probably I can't remember not being a Star Trek fan.
Okay.
The more I thought about it.
I
So-
You know, that's a
That's true.
fair trade-off. They gave us Shakespeare, and we gave them Star Trek.
Oh, yeah. But, no, you didn't give him Star Trek. Oh, the great thing...
That's what they get for Titus
Yeah.
Andronicus.
Yeah, exactly. I had to read The Winter's Tale last year. Screw you people.
Here's Voyager.
And now you must watch all 4 seasons of Enterprise.
So, Alan, is this covering the just TOS to retronym it, the original series comics?
No, this is going to cover all the Star Trek comics from the Golgi stuff from 67 up through the Wildstorm stuff. So everything from 67 to 2001.
So even like drawn Scott Bakula stuff.
Actually, there's never been...
don't-
Surprise,
yeah. Oh,
surprise.
really?
There has never been an Enterprise comic.
I thought, Top Cow or somebody must have said, sure, we can draw the girls half naked. It'll be fine.
It's Enterprise and the animated series are the two versions that have never had a comic book.
Wow.
Enterprise and what else?
The animated
The
series.
animated
Oh, well,
series,
yes.
yeah.
Which I personally love.
Actually,
Yeah.
several of the animated series characters made it into other...
I was about to say. So,
Yeah.
I remember seeing a bunch
Yeah.
of crossovers. The feline
Some of the animated series stuff made it to canon.
Lieutenant Kamess or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Has every major publisher had the property at some point?
Let's see, it went through
Marvel,
Golgi, Marvel, McDonald's.
McDonald's, yeah.
Whitman had it for a while.
Well, Whitman was Golgi.
Pizza Hut.
Peter Pan Records, DC, Malibu, Marvel again, Tokyo Pop, IDW, Wildstorm.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Slut!
So yeah, I guess the answer is yeah.
By the way, if anybody out there wants to, he mentioned Peter Pan Records, which was in the 70s, before people had VCRs and stuff like this. They would take comic books and they would have a little sleeve in the back of them with a 45 that you could listen along to as you read the comic book. If you Google Power Records,
Oh, yeah.
you can go and find a lot of these things. I know they have all the Star Trek stuff available. They've also got most of the Marvel superheroes and DC superheroes. It's fun stuff. It's worth checking out.
You and
So
Leon
what-
get all glowy when you bring that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what blew my mind, which I'd never realized until I started writing the book, that Neil Adams drew
Oh, yeah.
comic books for the Peter
really?
Pan Records.
Yeah, I know a couple of the Batman were direct Neil Adams. Yeah,
and he did
very
he
good
did-
artwork.
He did the Star Trek ones too. Yeah.
So okay, you were
Although for some reason they make Uhuru white. I can never figure that out.
Sulu's African American.
you were a neophyte Trekkie, like I guess most people are who consider themselves casual Trek fans, and then all of a sudden you're faced with the daunting task of, I assume, having to actually sit and read 600 plus some comic books about.
Yeah, I've
this
spent the
universe.
last 6 months reading about 600 Star Trek comic books. Yeah.
So I assume you're not married then.
Yeah.
Oh, not anymore. Anyway.
If you get anything wrong, they will have your ass. You realize that,
yeah,
right?
I know that.
Poser!
So you're just, this book, the purpose is to track the stories that were going on, or more the history of how they were written and how they came to be?
It's a combination of the publishing history, the history of Star Trek in comics through the years, and then we've done basically a synopsis, comment on each story.
Okay.
Wow, like all 600.
All 600 to have a plot.
This is going to be a big book.
Yeah.
Well, I took a look at a chapter from it. It looks like it's got pictures of the covers in full color, and I mean, this looks like something that, like, if you didn't know about these Trek comics beforehand, it would be a pretty interesting thing to pick up.
There's some really nice covers in this too, because I know Gold Key, they did a lot of painted covers as opposed to the
Those are
four color,
gorgeous.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
four color setup that most comic books in the 70s and 60s were using.
Yeah, and we've actually managed to find some of the original painted art for those covers, so that's going to be in the book too.
That must have been a coup. I mean, how did that happen?
My publisher collects original pop culture art. And
Oh, okay.
A lot of it is either in his collection or he knows people who have it in their collection.
Who is your
Nice.
publisher and what is their address?
Yeah.
But
And
not-
when did they go to bed?
In all honesty, who is publishing this?
It's published by Hermes Press.
Okay, what will the actual title of the book?
The book will be
tome?
Star Trek: A Comics History.
Okay, cool. All right, so tell me, after sitting and reading all this, if you were going to tell someone, like, okay, you've got to do a book report on a Star Trek comics run, and, you know, they had to pick one particular run, like, of the Star Trek comics about all those, which is the one you would say, you know what, this is the one that probably you would enjoy the most?
It depends if they like fun or they're a canon Trekkie.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
because
if they enjoy good, fun, silly stories, I'd go for the Gold Key ones.
Okay.
If they are the people that get hung up on the star dates and stuff like that, then I'd go for the DC run.
Okay. Well, yeah, I remember reading the DC run and actually really enjoying it because I used to get hung up on all that stuff.
Now, in the DC stuff, does it do all of the Enterprise timelines, or does it just basically focus on the original series or movies? Or
DC did the original series and Next Gen, and that's all they took the license for. So when Deep Space Nine came out, Malibu Comics picked up Deep Space Nine and Voyager. So there was actually a period when we had two separate publishers doing two different sets of Star Trek stories.
Paramount, you whores.
One thing I thought was odd about Star Trek as opposed to comics from a lot of other properties is a lot of other properties, they make sure the people who own the properties that those comics aren't allowed to do like the further adventures of those characters in any sort of permanent way. It's always like between the seasons type of stuff or behind the scenes scenes we didn't see but that don't really impact anything on the whole. Whereas Star Trek, even though it's not considered canon, it seems like it has, the comics always took major strides in saying, nope, this is how it was. And even going so far as to one point with the company saying, Paramount saying, we do consider this one thing to be canon, as far as the famous Deep Space Nine Klingon forehead incident and explaining what the hell the deal is with that.
Yeah, I think whether something's canon or not depends which way the wind's blowing on any given day. The interest in the early stages, they were very strict on what they could and couldn't show. When Marvel got their first license around the time of the motion picture, they only licensed Marvel with events and characters that were seen in the motion picture. They couldn't even use stuff from the original series.
Wow.
So they even had to go to Paramount and say, can we use the Vulcan nerve pinch? And they had to get the movie out and see if Spock had actually used it in the movie. And if he hadn't, they weren't allowed to do it in the book. Yeah.
What a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But when DC got it, DC actually, there was a change at Paramount in the person that actually could approve stuff, and they got much more license to actually go and do stuff. So they started to introduce things like characters from the animated series, and you can tell when Paramount got more control because those characters would suddenly disappear from the book, and then about a few months later they'd sneak back in, and then they'd disappear again. You can almost track people at Paramount. Saying, yes, you can do this. No, you can't. Yes, you can. No, you can't. Yes, you can.
Do any of the incarnations, does anyone ever bring back the Kzinti?
No.
Okay,
you lost me on that.
Well, the Kzinti, there was an episode of the animated series using an alien race called the Kzinti, and
Bo has won the Geek Award.
yes,
for the
exactly.
evening.
But
Again.
they're a cool crossover because they come from Larry Niven's Known Space.
Okay, yeah.
Series, which has actually had like role playing games based around it and all kinds.
like
of
Ringworld,
stuff.
right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah.
it's a Ringworld, and Larry Niven actually wrote several episodes of the animated series.
Oh, okay.
I think
So
he
it
did
was
some of the original.
It was probably a
series,
rights
too.
issue, which is why that never came back into it.
Exactly, and that's hence my curiosity.
So wondering, I know that Star Trek's done a certain amount of crossovers in the comic books as well that are not famous for being good. Let's just say, because I remember reading the Star Trek X-Men crossover and going, "What in the hell is this?"
Money,
Yes,
money.
because you can't have a Marvel Comics line of any kind and not have a mutant in it at some point.
Wolverine has to be in every single title.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm surprised they just don't call themselves Wolverine Comics. at this
Yeah,
point.
no kidding.
And
Well,
just
Spider-Man comics back in the 70s.
The weird thing
wait.
is, whenever I say to people I'm writing a book about Star Trek comics, that's the first book they always mention. Oh, I remember the Star Trek X-Men book.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow,
and it's
that's
either
depressing.
that was so cool or that was so lame.
I always
One guy at Staple, I think he almost had an orgasm over the fact that Patrick Stewart was, Picard and Professor Xavier, and there was one panel where they were talking to each other, and he thought it was the coolest thing.
so they didn't even
ever.
bother to make a joke out
By,
of it.
by the
No,
way,
no,
upon that note, I quit.
I thought that would be like a Fred Saberhagen Dracula Sherlock Holmes joke in there, but no. Okay, I guess not. No, I don't think of that because that was so awful. I'm trying to forget it, but I do, as I was mentioning earlier, that I thought that was really cool that they were like, you remember that part in Deep Space Nine where they said, "Well, yeah, that's a good point. How come the Klingons look totally different?" And the comics are the only place they've bothered to explain that at all.
I actually just like the fact that the Worf line is we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And they should have left it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they did
I mean,
as far as
the
like,
4-issue comic series actually does a good job of explaining it, but I didn't like the fact they explained it.
yeah, you're right. Something should be left to
Yeah, it's
imagination.
one of those fun things that it's just like it's the Buckaroo Banzai. What is that watermelon doing there?
Yeah,
I'll tell you
right.
later. You know?
We don't want to
No,
know.
you don't wanna know.
And oddly enough, if you go to the Bonsai Institute website, which is made up by a bunch of physics geeks who love the movie, there's like a 70-page essay explanation for why the watermelon is there and what it has to do with quantum physics.
See, sometimes it's better not to ask.
Yeah, aren't you sorry you
Well, one thing I wanted to bring up that I kind of brought up earlier off mic is there are certain discrepancies in all the comic incarnations. And one of the things I brought up, like when I recently was looking at a collection of some of the Gold Key stuff, and like there is no effort whatsoever to make the weapons that they are using look like phasers. And in fact, like the crew, whenever they're on away missions, they're wearing like these great big gun belts that look like they were issued to like the 7th Cavalry in 1842 to with like leather flaps over the holsters, and it's just like, this was never in the series. What's up with that?
And the most famous one, of course, is the flames spurting from the back of the Enterprise nacelles.
That was when they were dragging with
Yeah.
another ship for Pinks, I believe.
Yeah.
Kirk tricked that bitch out.
Like I mentioned off mic, I actually think people are actually unfair because there's a good reason they were like that. Because when that series started and was first licensed, they used Italian artists and Spanish artists and guys in Europe who had never ever seen the show, and basically they were just sent some stills and a 1-page of description. And if you basically look at the Enterprise and you've got no idea what it is or what it does, it seems fairly logical.
So
that those
you're-
are jet engines on it. If nobody tells you that the gun's called a phaser and not a laser, you're going to call it a laser.
Right.
So for the
So you're basically telling me that Gold Key Comics was a spaghetti western. That's kind of awesome.
They probably read the same description that confused Paramount when Roddenberry first brought it to him and said, no, it's just a Western.
yeah,
And
it's
then-
wagon train in space.
Wagon train.
And then he
Space.
handed them the cage, and they went, "What the hell is this? This isn't a Western."
And then some alien walked up wearing a poncho and kicked the shit out of the entire away team, Captain. I'm sorry.
So you're saying that this
With a theremin.
the comics, the early comics, go more into that sort of like woohoo Western kick-ass adventures in space type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's not till a little later.
They
you
really
start-
are westerns in space. The first few, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not till a little later in other people's licenses. that
You can
start
see
getting
when people
into-
actually started to watch the show.
Right.
So, whoops.
Apart from the guys writing the British strip, because at the same time Gold Key were doing it, there was actually in the UK they were actually producing their own original Star Trek stories for the UK comics with British creators, and who had exactly the same problem. The first UK strip came out 6 months before the show aired on the BBC, so they were making their first one. It's Captain Kurt,
Kurt.
and the Enterprise lands on the planet.
Yeah.
And there's even one strip where it actually acts as a submarine, which is really cool.
Awesome. Would have been
But they
helpful with
did
the whales.
But the great thing is that even when they started watching the show, they obviously never caught on to the fact that it was an American show, because Spock calls Kirk Skipper all the way through. Skipper, and it's all. And there's an episode where they teach a band of gorilla men to play soccer. Because you have to have a soccer strip in any British.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you get Grant Morrison.
About to say, that's Grant Morrison's Star Trek.
Are there any plant elementals or weapon grades crystal meth?
No, but there are, actually, I think the best one ever is the one where Kirk and Spock get rescued by a race of intelligent giant snails.
Wow.
Alan Moore, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. And to my mind, what sort of away team, how lethargic are the away team when they get rescued by snails?
It's like, hurry, beam us up.
Yeah.
Well,
I
actually,
can-
Snail! Help me, snail!
I can just see the whole Skipper. Why do you keep calling me that, Spock? Like, permission to speak freely. Hell no, you can't speak freely.
So we were mentioning these famous author names. Were there any big writers who ever came and wrote the comic? I mean, I assume some of the original Star Trek writers, like DC Fontana or somebody, at some point
most of
stepped in.
the people who've done the novels, and like you said,
Larry Niven.
Larry Niven,
Theodore Sturgeon.
Alan Dean Foster did the
wow.
records for the Power Records.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they should have been really
that's,
good. Written by Alan Dean
Passage-
Foster and drawn by Neil Adams. They should have been awesome. But they're
Passage
really
to
bad.
Moau, Passage to Moau, and Crier and the Emptiness, which are actually two really good. I mean, I've got them on my iPod. I listen to them in my car occasionally.
That's so sad.
Wow.
Oh, like what? If you could watch Star Trek episodes while you were driving, you wouldn't do it.
Yeah, the good Star Trek episodes.
I told dude, Alan Dean Foster, suck it.
Of course, there was a time when Alan Dean Foster didn't know how to say no.
Well, that's true.
Didn't he do Splinter in the Mind's Eye for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Star
Yes,
Wars
he
thing?
did, yeah.
Yeah, but he also wrote like just like, can you write the Battle Beyond the Stars adaptation? Sure.
No, he did Alien and Outland.
Yeah.
And all
Every
that stuff.
sci-fi movie he did.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
sci-fi movie
Yeah.
between 1975 and 1995. It
He
was like
churned out
yeah,
an Adam.
it was
novel
either him
adaptation.
or Alan Brunner.
Yeah, very true. So, I'm trying to think of what else there is to ask you specifically about this. Well, what were those? I asked you earlier, what were the high moments? I mean, for you personally, what were the things that you were like, oh my god, that is so awesome?
Yeah.
I'll
We're
actually
going
tell you my
through all
favorite Star Trek comic book story is one that Peter David did, and it's one of the annuals, and it's a Scotty story. And basically, it's where we learn that Scotty was married. And they basically bring him. It starts with he gets the news of the death of his wife, and the whole story basically goes in reverse. And you get various points of his life with this woman, and when he first met her, and it basically ends with them being 8 years old and meeting for the first time.
Oh wow.
And it's one of the few Star Trek stories where basically it's a Kleenex. You need a box of Kleenex by the side of you. Is one of Peter David's best stories.
Peter
Wow.
David's such a great writer.
Yeah.
And that was
Actually,
during
Definitely one of
it's
the most
completely
underrated comic book
unexpected. There's
writers.
no battles. It's a complete just relationship story.
That was
about
during the
these two
DC or the
That was during the
Marvel?
DC.
During the DC run.
era. Yeah, but it's in one of the IDW Best of Archives.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so they got the rights to reprints.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, IDW, their archives collection are doing stuff from both the DC, Marvel, and Malibu.
Oh, wow.
And that is a
Okay.
good question to ask. I mean, where would one go to find some of these older comics? Are there any resources out there? And I mean, how did you find them? Were they all provided to you by the publisher? Or?
I wish. We found the old British and newspaper strips through the French, the Star Trek fan community. As soon as the book was announced,
Who are often equated with French, to be fair.
Yeah. Don't know why I said that word. But basically, as soon as we announced the book, I got inundated with emails with people saying, I've got this stuff and I've got that stuff, which was really great. There is actually a DVD-ROM collection you can get on Amazon that basically has all the US published Star Trek comics on one DVD.
Holy hell.
Sweet.
That from Gold Key through to the Wildstorm book. So, I've got all those on DVD and I'm just on my laptop and I can just go research. And I've got Yeah, I've got a ton of Star Trek trade paperbacks on my bookcase.
Did you read them all?
Yeah.
Well, you read the trade paperbacks, like the comic book paperbacks, or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
actual novels as well?
No, I don't have all the novels.
Okay.
There's like 600 novels. as
Yeah,
well.
I think
Yeah.
we'd be talking to him like 3 years in the future if that was the.
I assume
And
at
he would
some-
be insane.
I assume at some point there was William Shatner stepped in and said, "I have to make some money off this," and said there was some William Shatner presents Star Trek comedy.
You leave Tech War alone.
Yeah.
Bastard.
You leave Rescue 911 alone.
Yes, there is a Shatner Star Trek comic. Yes.
written by, or I should say,
Yeah,
probably
written by, yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, him and Tom Clancy.
Well, what's the name of the guy where he was like, when they were like, "Sorry, you're the one who said you wanted us to kill Kirk, but I changed my mind. I'm going to write
Not
quotation
like
marks 3 books. How much money do we make from those? 4 books. Okay.
But Shatner's not the only one. I mean, there are
Yeah.
quite a few of the creators. George Takei's done one.
Well, no,
Conrad's done
Walter
one.
Koenig wrote an episode of Land of the Lost.
Yeah, and he actually
So,
he was the first of the Star Trek cast to write a Star Trek comic.
Yeah.
The story goes basically that they were at some Star Trek convention and he was in the audience and they were asking for questions and he stood up and basically said, "Yeah, why do you guys always write Sulu stories and you never write a Chekhov story?" And the DC editor at the time said, "Well, if you want a Chekhov story, write me one." And he
They're
did.
like, "We're only up to season 1 in the comics."
Yeah.
Like, I'll write you one, you little bastard.
So, and several of the others, Mark Leonard did one, Tim Russ did one. So yeah,
You know,
quite a lot of the creators.
I'm sorry, pretending to play with dilithium crystals does not a comic writer make.
Actually, a couple of them are really good, and the others are really bad.
Really?
You ever notice in the first season when things were a little slower, they were a little more psychological, they were just called lithium crystals?
Yeah.
Coincidence?
Coincidence or irony at this point,
And that is TOS.
considering the fandom.
Well, Alan Porter, thank you so much for coming
Thank
in
you.
and talking to us. I really appreciate it. You have inspired me to go back and read some of these comic books.
I'm sorry about that.
And hopefully you've inspired some of the people listening to this to go pick up your book. Tell me the name and the publisher again.
It's Star Trek: A Comics History from Hermes Press, and it should be out in July.
All right.
And you want to plug anything else?
Go on then. I'm also currently writing the Disney Pixar World of Cars comic book for Boom.
Oh.
Issue 1 is out. Issue 2 should be in the stores anytime
I enjoyed
soon.
issue 1. I've read that.
And the
We love
first
Boom
trade will be
Comics.
out in July, just in time for San Diego.
Awesome. And we'll hopefully see you at San Diego.
I will definitely be there.
In theory, I'll be there this year.
Yes, and when Cyrus says "we," he means him.
Yes. The royal we. Not just these lame leaguers.
Not you assholes.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
Space. The final frontier. These are the continuing voyages of the starship Enterprise. Her ongoing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life forms and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
This is another part of the League of Extremely Ordinary Gentlemen, Volume 2, Issue 9.5. Right now, we are going to be doing our review of Best Worst Movie, a little film I saw during South by Southwest with Jason and Kayla.
Howdy.
Hello! Now, this is a very special moment as well because this marks Kayla's 3rd appearance on the League of Extremely Ordinary Gentlemen, which is the marker point for becoming officially a member of the Support League of Extremely Ordinary Gentlemen, with a direct link on the League Lounge page.
That's big.
That
That's
is big.
huge.
Special now.
That is huge. You get all sorts of perks and privileges.
I know, like being on this Spill.com thing, my hamburger bed got all of 50 new points.
Really?
Little people, yeah.
Very nice.
Granted, swine flu linked to me, and I got 2,000.
What?
Wait, what's swine flu?
On Facebook, you have little indicators, and they have this thing called Insight, and the swine flu decided to be a fan of the hamburger bed.
So like the swine flu, like the swine flu that goes around.
Yes.
It's got a
Facebook page.
A Facebook page
With almost
Of course.
100,000 people.
Wow,
That's
I'm
their
a fan
thing.
of the swine flu. Okay, so is you saying your hamburger bag gives people swine flu? Is that?
I don't know, but I'm a little nervous that the swine flu is interested. Let's just say that.
So, and just to.
But being on here is definitely.
Oh, that's exciting too.
No, but I've also got really great feedback both ways.
We are
Cool.
so bigger than the swine flu.
We will be. The swine
will
flu
be.
is a flash in the pan. We're here to stay.
Right. We've never killed anyone that's been
But-
recorded by the CDC.
That reminds me, I should really tell you a story later, Jason. But
Off the mic.
so I also wanted to say about the hamburger bed real quick that I read that you are now going to be selling them.
Yes, I am.
Really?
Very exciting.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Except people have been calling me a sellout because I've held out for so long. But it's just when you have 800 people saying, I want one, I need one, I decided I'd sell 4 and then have one as a competition.
Of course,
contest.
if you sell 4 and the bidding goes up to like $9,000 or something a bed, I have a feeling we're going to see you make more.
You totally should. Yeah, I mean, fuck yeah, sell out. Why not?
Oh no, you made some money from art.
Yeah.
You evil whore.
No, it's a lot
Like
of
your Tom
work.
Waits. Come on.
Hey,
Oh,
But
talking shit about
it's
Tom
more
Waits.
that I don't want to make them. It's
Oh,
because
okay.
it's really hard work.
well,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can do what everybody else does: is hire some immigrants to make them for you and just stamp your name on the tag.
dude, Bo has at least 6 immigrants that can help with that.
Oh, Bo
Yeah.
is an immigrant who can do it for you.
That's
so-
true. That dirty Irishman.
But let's go for the
Yes,
raison
but
d'etre.
The reason I'm here is because I'm a super Troll 2 fan.
Yes,
And I
which-
saw Best Worst Movie twice at South by.
Oh, you got to see it twice. Okay, I wasn't going to see it at South by, and then it was one of those things where a slot opened up, and I was literally right in front of the theater when I realized it was about to start. And I was like, oh hell, I'll just go see it anyway. And I totally loved it. I thought it was amazing. I have one criticism, which we'll get to later.
Let's explain what it is first.
Okay, if you folks ever heard of a movie called Troll 2? Probably not. But you should have, because this is one of these films that's kind of the Plan 9 from outer space of our day. It's near worshipped by its fans because it's so bad that it actually transcends bad and kind of turns into good. I mean, you had an interesting viewpoint on this, Jason, when we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah. Well, it's I first saw Troll 2 back when it first came out. I think it was like straight to video with maybe a limited theatrical release. I don't really recall, but I originally thought no theater.
No, not even in theater. It started playing on HBO.
Okay.
And
Okay.
or those late night cable things that I didn't get to watch as a kid, and that's
Yeah, that might have been where I saw it, but I saw it. I guess back when it first came out,
90s.
and I was a Troll fan of Troll 1.
Rat Burgers. I love that movie too, by the way.
But it's
That's awesome.
but as I was like 14 or something, and I was like, God, this is horrible. This is terrible, and I didn't like it, and
you
then
couldn't stop thinking about it, though, could you?
No. In fact, I remembered it, and I remember the Alamo Draft House started having a screening of it, and apparently it had started to reach some cult status, and I was like, wow, really? And it just baffled me. And so you gave me a copy of the screener for Best Worst Movie,
Yeah.
so I went back and watched Troll 2 again, and it's not one of those so bad it's good movies. It's so bad it's sublime.
Or
It's
as
just
I would say,
amazing.
It's just good. It's just a
It's
good movie.
not a good movie.
Okay,
It is great.
Which is not something I could agree with you on there, but I think it's fantastic that you feel that.
You are out of your damn mind if you think that is a good
We were
movie.
laughing earlier. It's like, really? You really think it's good? You realize you're as crazy as those guys who walk around with the big boards that say the end is near, right?
Come to Nilbog.
But you're also much cuter than they are, so that goes a long way.
I guess.
And you're wearing the Deadly Spawn T-shirt. So
Because that movie is also amazing, by the way.
I haven't actually seen it.
No, it's not.
Maybe when they go they do best worst movie too.
Yeah, Best Worst Movie 2 is going to be about the Deadly Spawn. It really is. Deadly Spawn is horrible.
See, let's
Okay.
let's be here.
But remember, this is the guy who just said Troll 2 was horrible until he saw it again. I could probably
Okay.
hype up the Deadly Spawn before he saw it, and their brains will explode, and they'll go, what was I doing? And they'll buy the shirt, too.
Well, see, I saw Deadly Spawn a couple of years ago. Not so much. Saw Troll 2 last week. And, yeah, it's glorious. It fails on every level, though.
Which is
And
what's glorious about it is that much like Plan 9 from Outer Space, when you watch it, you're like, this isn't just a movie that its fuck ups are bad enough where you go, oh, that's just embarrassing. This is just a waste of time. This is a movie where at every possible turn it makes the wrong decision.
Yeah.
And because of that, it all kind of gels into something more than that. You almost think, if it wasn't for the fact that the director and writer were taking it completely seriously, you would imagine that this was all calculated. But it wasn't. It was just a series of, I don't know if the word is happy accident, but I guess the B movie equivalent of that it just all congeals into this sort of a completely different experience. I mean, this isn't even Rocky Horror type of bad. This is something else entirely.
Yeah, this is its own animal. I can't even really. I mean, the best analog to it is Plan 9. I really can't think of any other good comparison of a movie that is just so atrocious in acting, directing, score, cinematography, special effects, everything, where it just kind of comes together into this juicy, delicious green goo.
Slithers?
I haven't seen Slithers.
God, I haven't seen that since I was a kid.
See, now you are the official like person of Spill who we go to for all these movies, the B movies, because we don't know these. Jason,
Trumping me.
It was Jason, but sorry, Jason.
Okay, well,
You've been outdone.
here's my mic. You can have it. Fine.
You better
But
find a
he's
new
probably
specialty.
seen more of the big name ones than me, and I'm not
Oh
quite
yeah,
caught up on
you
my
haven't
homework
seen
yet.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
June.
I'm
Have
unplugging.
you
I'm
seen The
unplugging your mic.
Exorcist?
I just saw it last
Oh,
month.
you did? Okay.
Just last month.
Hey, I saw that movie the first time as an adult, and it still scared the shit out of me,
Charlatan.
So
I'm catching up.
Okay.
And I'm creating a really neat webpage.
Oh, that's right.
It's horror homework.
Horrorhomework.com.
Blogspot. Once
Awesome.
Oh, Blogspot.
let us know as soon as you have finished. Like when it's ready and up, so
Yeah.
we can tell people about it. But Best Worst Movie is a documentary about fans like these two guys. They're about Jason and Kayla. Okay, mainly Kayla.
Mainly Kayla.
It's about people who have turned this into a phenomenon. It follows everyone involved with this film. It follows I'm sorry, refresh my name. The main actor.
the kid actor?
No, the
Gary
George Hardy?
Hardy.
George Hardy, who is like
father.
who plays the father in the film, and he is one of the most animated, fun-loving dudes you'd ever want to meet, and he's just this total ham who gets completely, the whole fandom thing. He understands this isn't a good movie, but he also understands why people love it too. And he just starts touring with this film and this production, and you can't help but fall in love with him and the movie and everything about it.
The documentary really is. It goes into Troll 2 a lot, of course, as it should, but it really is at its core the story of George Hardy, this small town guy he's a dentist in small town Alabama, and he gets caught up in this very peculiar and singular cult phenomenon with Troll 2, and it really is a phenomenon. I mean, these huge crowds show up. At all across the country, mostly their reception all over the globe was limited, as they touch on. But like here in Austin and Los Angeles and New York and places in between, it was just this epic thing that was so long as you were 20 to 35 years old and white. And usually a male. So yeah, it very much is a movie of the hipster generation, because if you look at it, the crowd is a very specific demographic.
Sure, but so's our crowd. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, so they are us to some extent.
So this might be the exact right group to be telling to go see Best Worst Movie. And it was directed by the child star of the movie, Michael Stevenson, which is, I think, awesome. I mean, here's this kid who probably thought, well, that's my Hollywood experience.
Bring on the cocaine.
Yeah, near Hollywood as you can get. And then years later, probably thinking nothing of this. I mean, near as I can tell, they really didn't expect this was going to get as much attention as it has. And it's one of those ones that just wins you over. It reminds me, in the way people are receiving it, of Hands on Hard Body when that came out. The documentary about the people in Texas who were trying to win a truck by keeping their hands on it the longest. And another one of those, a simple little tale that ended up just really striking a resonant chord with its audience.
Yeah, because the director does manage to craft something of a narrative there in the kind of the build of the cult phenomenon and George Hardy's adventure in reuniting, and it kind of culminates with the big Nilbog invasion that the Alamo Drafthouse had in on location in Utah, where they brought all or most of the original cast back and showed the movie and turned that town into Nilbog, goblin spelled backwards.
Even the crazy guy, right? Who just kind of the one guy who was he was the proprietor, the store proprietor.
Yeah, the store proprietor. He was
the
great.
guy who's genuinely insane.
Unstable.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, though, is you watch this movie and you start to realize that a lot of the actors aren't all there, and not just him. He's the one that's most open about it.
The one that plays the mom, who has clearly just gone way over the
She's
deep
like
end at this
agoraphobic
point,
or something. Yeah, she really is completely unhinged. She is. I mean, I expected her to start throwing cats at the camera.
Yeah, no, it was whatever happened to Baby Jane if
Right.
if like, they never had a hit, But Kayla, why don't you're the perfect person to give us a rundown on what Troll 2 is. Tell us the story of Troll 2
and the documentary. Yeah, give us some of the give us some of the tidbits.
Well, the entire movie was shot in Utah, and so it was just local Utah actors and people off the street who were like, I'm going to be an actor. And that was Troll 2. I don't know how much you could ruin.
Well, just tell us you're not going to ruin, but so much. Just give us like if you're doing Kayla's version of the back cover of the DVD,
I didn't prepare for that, but it'd be much more entertaining.
In a world called Utah.
Yes. Well, there's this family, and they're like, we're going to go on vacation. We're going to basically do a house swap. And so we're going to trade our house with another house out in the country because the dad needs to relax. And so they go out to this city called Nilbog, and they're ready to set up. But meanwhile, the kid is kind of strange, and he's seeing his dead grandfather everywhere. And so his family's really freaking out about that.
So they believe it or they don't?
They don't believe in him seeing his dead grandfather until much later in the movie.
Which when it happens is like, what?
Yes. And so they're there, and they have like food out on the table, and his grandfather says, that food's awful. Don't eat it.
It's poison.
It's bad. And so
he stops time.
He stops time. The
Wow.
grandfather stops time.
It's definitely not just a memory then.
No.
Although, kids, for you out there listening, if your dead grandfather starts talking to you, ignore him. And go talk to an adult.
Yeah, this is very much grandfather come Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
Yes.
But
Very
continue.
much so. And should I say? And
Yeah.
the boy gets
Yeah.
up. I don't know. The boy gets up on the table and pees on the food.
What?
And-
Yeah.
Yes.
He pees on the food?
He pees on the food. It's terrific. And
It's much better this way.
and then like the dad gets all mad and probably gives the best line ever, and you will see it 30,000
Yeah.
times in the best worst movie.
Yeah, they show it again and
Oh,
again and
over
again.
and over. Classic line. Classic
Who's going to
line.
do it? Come on.
Yeah, this is after the kid pees on the food that was left out for them, and the dad gets all pissed off and just disciplining him, and he says, "You can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it."
While he's taking his belt off.
Well,
No,
he's taking-
as he's
as he's
tightening
tight-
his belt
Oh, he's tightening his
to
belt.
stave off the hunger pains because he's been hungry before.
So,
So-
they're in the kingdom of the goblins, right?
They're in this weird goblin city.
Okay.
Nilbog.
No vlog.
Yeah, which is just goblin backwards.
Correct. And so they're there, and then strange that like the neighbors are all weird, and this neighbor kid throws a baseball, says "eat or be eaten," which isn't quite true if you think about it, because if they eat, they'll get eaten.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
A couple of logical flaws.
It just
in this.
alliteratively, it was better.
Up until now, I thought this was an airtight script, but she's poking holes in it. So, but anyway, go ahead.
But it's hard to, because I don't know. I'll save what I'm about to say for later. But so they're there, and there's a witch kind of lady, and she's like messing with things and trying to get them to eat, and the whole town is trying to get them to eat.
And it's like this green pudding stuff.
Yeah.
When the family's
And-
still not eating just because at this point they've realized that they are goblins and
No.
that the little kid wasn't crazy, or
No.
Why
They're
are
just
they
not, because they haven't had a chance to go to the store yet, and so
even though he's actually tightening his belt because he's so hungry.
Well,
he's
they're
losing
also
weight.
kind of distracted because the sister's boyfriend and his van of friends show up, and they're like,
yeah.
"Oh,
They
I'm
show
gonna-"
up with a whole van load of homosexual undertones. I am not even kidding.
Now, those are the deleted scenes from the original Poltergeist or something like that, I believe. What? You remember there was supposed to be a much bigger subplot with the sister that was apparently excised from the finished film.
Was not aware of that.
Yeah, well, because the sister in the original Poltergeist, you forget she's even part of the family.
Oh, yeah,
until
she just kinda goes
shows
away.
up again at the end, and then the rest of the film series totally forgets she ever existed at all.
No, Troll 2 would never
not
pull
just
some punk-ass flaw like that.
and not just because the actress died either. So
Oh, right. It's like choked to death by her boyfriend having sex in Central Park or something. But anyway,
which
Troll
did not
2.
happen to the daughter in Troll 2. So what
Yes.
happened to her?
Well, everyone's just all the boys and their friends, and there's another strange woman, I think, who shows up, and they all start eating the stuff, and they start turning into green goo.
Eating the goo turns them into like slimy plant things because the goblins are not the trolls. The goblins are vegetarians.
Clearly not for moral reasons.
Right. Yeah, I think there's some digestive stuff,
Yeah, they can only digest plant matter for whatever reason.
So they convert people into plants. Is that
Plants
right?
so that they can eat them.
Right, okay.
Because,
Wow, that is one messed up race.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's genius as far as movie making goes.
Yeah, I mean, no one had ever come up with that angle on
Yeah.
mythical creatures before.
Oh, and what's the kryptonite of the trolls? Of the goblins?
Milk and coffee, right?
Was it milk? Well, he threw a bologna sandwich at the goblins.
Real food. Like they...
Just any real food.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
The kid threw a bologna
So
sandwich. at
if
them.
they had in fact just ignored the daughter and made a trip to the store, this all could have been wrapped up in like a half an hour. Is that what you're saying?
Quite
They just
possibly.
had a refrigerator full of the maxi-sized Hot Pockets. They could have just loaded those up in the air cannon, and it would have been the end of the story.
would have been all right. They would have been good.
okay. Of
The
course-
trolls would have been thwarted.
Because it's hard to waste Hot Pockets even on trolls.
Hot pocket.
But these aren't trolls. These are goblins. Where is the troll in this movie?
Okay, well, it's the old Italian thing of take a successful movie, not that Troll was exactly successful.
His first
And
mistake.
then use a similar title to just
Kind of like the
bombast-
whole Zombie 2. Zombie
Yeah.
1 was actually Dawn of the Dead.
Right.
With the whole Fulci thing. But
Exactly.
Not much
So-
of a relation other than the fact they both have monsters.
right.
And
Yes. And one of them eats a shark in the second one, which is awesome.
Exactly.
As
So-
previously discussed, is in fact awesome.
the Italians do that. So
Yeah.
And then
the Japanese.
and the Best Worst Movie kind of picks up where Michael's now like this older guy.
He's like 30 or something. Yeah,
Like
the kid
early
that
thir-
plays the guy that plays the kid in the movie. Yeah.
He's grown up now, and so he's been getting a lot of fan mail about Troll 2, and the Upright Citizens Brigade approached him because they're loving Troll 2, and he's like, what's going on? I'm starting documenting this now. He always wanted to be a child star, but that never worked out, so he's starting to think about where he's going to take his first directorial debut, and he was like, I should just do my own story. There's definitely something here. And so I think one of the great things about what Best Source Movie is it's not a look back. Everything's actually happening
That's a good point.
as
Yeah.
the movie's going along. It's everything he's experiencing, and he's chronicling that.
So, don't you have a good story about the witch?
I do. Well, the only person who didn't go back to the...
Who wasn't in the documentary at all, really.
Well,
I mean, aside from her
she
original
wasn't-
footage.
She's actually at the Utah festival.
Oh, okay.
You just don't see her story like you see everyone else's. The only one who didn't go back to Utah was the mom. So pretty much every character was in Utah. But I hate to say this, I'm told, not by Michael or anybody, from secondary characters, that she just wasn't very interesting. She's kind of actory. She still lives in Utah. The witch still lives in Utah, and to get ready for the big No Vlog celebration, George actually fixed all her teeth for free. He's just this really nice guy.
Did she have like bad teeth or something?
Did you not see her teeth?
Those were her real teeth?
Okay, she lives in Utah. Clue 1.
No, I thought those were fake. Those were her real teeth. Oh, okay, so creepy witch lady, and everyone in this movie pretty much acts like they're in a porno without any of the pornography. And I really thought, okay, well, she's a softcore adult film star, which has to be. I didn't bother looking it up. I just assumed. My bad.
Yeah.
But she's got these horrible, horrible teeth, and you just think, oh, those are prop teeth. Of course, she's an evil witch. She's got these prop teeth, but apparently they're real. Yeah. Holy hell!
And so George, just being really kind, redid her teeth, and the real story. Sometimes Michael kind of goes on little divergent tangents, but most of the time he really felt, after taking on the footage, that it was George's story. Mm-hmm. And so she didn't really fit into that. So that was the big reason she was kind of cut out.
Oh, okay.
Now, one of the other people in here who does probably the most shocking act of body mutilation I've ever personally been witness to, tattoos I guess one of the images from Troll 2 on his arm. His name's Zach Carlson, and you actually used to date Zach. Kind of. Well, okay, you're friends with Zach.
I'm friends with Zach. Definitely friends.
Okay.
We haven't dated.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. We don't want to confuse the issue then.
Exactly.
I'm sure Zach's like, oh man, I must have been drunk.
Maybe mark
that.
Maybe mark that one for editing.
Go back to hypnosis and try and figure out how to get those memories back.
You want to start over?
So were you there during all this? Were you going, yeah, get the tattoo, yeah, do it, totally, that'd be cool. All the chicks will dig it.
I wasn't quite there. I was kind of on the cusp. It was when Terror Tuesday was still Terror Thursday was still at midnight, and I'm a teacher, and so I couldn't go to those screenings, even though I was a fan. But no, he was completely. That was all on his own. They paid for it.
I can't help but think that perhaps that was a mistake. But that's all I'm saying there. You know,
but I really like that image.
I'm not even marked at all. I mean, if I was, I would, be very cautious about what I would put on my body. I mean, I know a lot of people love tattoos, but I think putting the Troll 2 image on you might fall under the not being cautious about what you're putting on.
I mean,
your
what's
body.
That morning like? You wake up and you've already got some tattoos, and you're like, I got a new one. What is Troll 2? Oh, jeez. Seriously? It's like when Cyrus actually does have one tattoo, and it is a Mama's Family tattoo of the whole family across his
we were
back.
supposed to keep that secret, like the Stevie Wonder thing.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I don't know. I guess that's also the difference between people who make fun of Troll 2 and the people who truly love Troll 2.
Oh, fair enough.
It's very much... It's a part of
I don't think
lives.
the two are mutually exclusive.
I mean,
really.
there was a point in my life I would have gotten the Rocky Horror lips tattooed on me if I'd had the money to do that. And I'm really glad now that I didn't.
Yeah, lucky for you, because there would have been a point in my life where I'd punch you right in the mouth.
Exactly. I would have had it coming.
Exactly.
But, I understand that kind of excitement about something like that. And I guess, I mean, I'm not part of this crowd that's crazy about Troll 2, but I do understand it. Now, which brings me to the one criticism I really have of this film. And it's hard to make a criticism of a movie that is, it's just so goddamn charming watching all these people seeing this just unadulterated love that people have for this film, while they, generally speaking, understand what it is too. The movie had the opportunity to be something even bigger than what it was, which is to talk about this phenomenon in general, to expand, to go, it's not just best worst movie. There are a lot of movies people feel this way about for the exact same reasons and have built over time these type of followings. And it would be interesting if the film had chosen to get a little more sociological about it, like in its purview, saying, okay, here's what we think the reasoning is why people react to these movies at all. But it never really touches on it as a bigger thing. It's really just about Troll 2.
Yeah.
Which being said, you shouldn't take that as a reason not to see it. You're gonna love this movie. If you've never seen Troll 2, it does not matter.
It really is kind of a post-mortem at some points of Troll 2. But yeah, and it does touch on the fan base and why they really like Troll 2, but they don't really get into the larger reasons why, and why people like Flash Gordon or Rocky Horror or Plan 9. But still, that said, though, it is a great documentary. And something we've skipped over is when the director shows up, Claudio
Fracasso?
Fracasso? Is that how you say it? I couldn't remember it.
Hold on, I'm right on top of it here.
He is
Fracasso.
Yeah, he is just kind of a caustic. He's almost a stereotype. He's this kind of angry Italian director. I mean, he's very much a director, in the way he talks and the way he views his films as something more than they really are.
Well, him and the writer. Who are just like, fuck you, this is genius. And we're like, oh yeah, wow, okay. I've dated women a lot like you.
Yeah, he's. I mean, at one point he says, I work with these dogs of actors, these actor dogs.
Yeah.
Well, that was completely unexpected when he did that at the Nil Blog. He said he wasn't coming because everyone kept calling it the worst movie, and he was genuinely hurt by that because to him, he made a good movie. And so
he kept saying it's ahead of his time. People just aren't ready for it.
Oh yeah.
And so he was actually kind of incognito in the back. And then he stood up and said all that.
This is during the panel.
This is during the panel.
Wow. Because during the panel, at one point, the director stands up and starts berating the actors and disagreeing with them, and no one knew he was there, apparently.
Right.
That's hilarious.
You want to get this guy aside and say, okay, you're part of the industry. You didn't stop making movies with this. You've continued to make movies that were, let's face it, not well received by the community at large. You have to acknowledge at some point in your life, look, I wasn't born to be a filmmaker here. This is obviously not my forte. Or maybe in your mind there's some secret, like you're speaking some sort of Rosetta Stone to the future. Like in the future, our movies, where the big films now will seem silly and stilted and weird, and this is the way people will act 2,000 years from now. Maybe you have some porthole to the future world, and
or maybe you're just a deluded asshole.
Maybe so. You should come be on Spill,
right? With the rest of the deluded assholes.
But I think that's where the magic is. It's these people
the
that
sincerity.
It's just the sincerity. I am taken by it every time I watch another budget film, and you can tell the people who are doing budget films that are trying to do something or be funny or be ironic, and then you can tell the people who were making something very genuine to them and just did the best with what they had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would definitely be true in this case.
Well, they actually bring it up in the documentary where they say, the real question is, does the movie entertain? And that's all it boils down to. No matter what level it is, does it entertain? And Troll 2 does. And I think the documentary really points that out and gets to the heart of why people like that.
And buy the T-shirts and tattoo it on
buy
their
the T-shirts
bodies.
and that was something.
Well,
can't wrap my mind around that.
That's a good stopping point for this movie. I do have a question for Kayla here, where just to throw out here because this is your speciality. If people enjoy this, which I wish I could tell people where to get it at this point. I don't even think they have I don't think they've gotten to DVD distribution yet.
Troll 2's on a double disc.
Not Troll 2,
DVD.
but Best Worst Movie.
It's not yet. It is. It's Michael didn't call back. So
okay. So you don't know.
I don't know where it's going next. I do know it's going to show somewhere, but I don't know where. And then they'll keep going and
keep an eye out for it on your local, if you have an art theater or something, because it probably will come through. And it's one of those ones I think they're going to see what they can do to build up groundswell of support at theaters like that. And hopefully eventually we'll get a DVD out there and I'll be able to pimp it on the site. But okay. So,
and if not, also watch out for Michael, because if what we want to happen comes true, the next project will be amazing as well. So.
Well, you're talking about Troll 2 Part 2? Well, it says it on Wikipedia. So
oh, really?
Yeah. About it. Yeah. No, they had a contest for people to a poll to say what the film should be, and the winner would get it, and the winning title was Troll 2 Part 2,
which has been if you probably know. Oh, sorry. Just being like a horror nerd, like all these irrelevant part twos of movies, you always want the part two to have its own sequel and be called part two. Like, it's just been like a secret dream, you know?
It's pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
But I'll be interested to see if they can recapture any of that very odd, peculiar.
Man, I gotta make some phone
Magic.
calls and see if we can get Highlander 2 Part 2.
Don't do
While
it.
we're on the
The world
subject.
is not ready for The Quickening Part 2.
That might be a movie ahead of its time.
Yeah, right.
Way, several million years
Yeah.
ahead of its time.
But
Let's,
the
let's hope
people
we don't
who-
live that long.
Who are involved are definitely the right people for Troll 2 Part 2.
Okay, fair. You know some inside stuff here, clearly. So,
But you know stuff, but that's the magic about this group of Troll 2 people. Like, they are the most approachable, kind-hearted people. I'm just a fan, and I got to eat burgers with them. Like, I met George Hardy's mother. Like,
Nice.
he treats everyone like they've been his best friend their whole lives.
that's awesome.
And they're really amazing. So it's just like, it's not that I'm such an insider. It's just there's some people
They're just very
who just,
approachable and open. And
just will talk to you, and there's no push away ever.
Well, if you've
So-
got a local art house theater or repertory theater or whatever, see if you can catch, or any film festivals, you can probably catch Best Worst Movie. I'm sure they've got a website or,
Or
something
even
like
better,
that.
send the people who run it an email asking if they can
Oh,
get
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And if you want to see Troll 2, you can actually watch it legally on fancast.com.
There you go.
Google it, and you
and
can
there's
track
the
it down.
double disc.
And then there is the double disc, which is out of print right
Which is
now.
out of
Right.
print. Yeah.
But you can still find some used copies around. And
Well, tell
yeah.
us, Kayla, like, okay, if people like this, like Troll 2 or this type of thing, as far as like these type of movies go, give me like 3 others that you really recommend.
Oh,
Because I know this is your thing. This is what you love, is this type of movies.
I'm
So,
trying to think of like the last 3 that did really well,
I mean,
like
you're probably
unexpectedly.
looking forward to that Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus or whatever it is that's coming out.
Oh, that's fake. I read the internet. I know that's fake. Oh, this is such. There's like me, and my number 1 all-time favorite movie is TerraVision.
TerraVision.
Oh,
So-
okay. All right, I've seen that.
And that
it's been a
one's-
while.
Yeah.
That one's amazing to me. I can live that one. Pretty much Eddie. I love Chopping Mall.
I was about to
Oh
say
my God.
Oh,
Chopping
yeah.
Mall.
Well, you made
but-
a cake of Chopping Mall for the director.
Yes, because I was so excited. And he's so kind too, so approachable, just amazing
It's
guy.
also called Killbots, right?
Yes, but that title didn't do very well.
That's too bad you don't make meat products. You could have made Killbotsa.
might
Oh,
one day.
God. It's you can't even turn that mic on without having a moment like that, can you?
I've been waiting for that all night.
The last one that just did amazing, that the Draft House has actually shown it twice, is Howling 2. That one's done just really
God,
great.
Lots of topless Sybil Danning in that one.
That was the thing.
Harry
Is like, I think that
Sybil
I think I could have been a very different person if, when I first saw that movie, I'd been hanging out with a different crowd, because I was in a small little town, and of course, The Howling 1 is generally undisputed to be a really good horror movie. Howling 2, not the same story. The Howling 2 is widely hated, and yet when I saw it on video, I was like, okay, this is not a good horror movie in the same sense the first one is, but I enjoyed the shit out of it. For that same reasons I think we're talking about enjoying Troll 2 and all
Evil
that.
midgets, Christopher Lee, Sybil
Exactly.
Danning, werewolves.
Everyone else said I was crazy and out of my mind.
got it all.
So I just stopped watching movies like that. So I think if I had been hanging out with you, Kayla, I would have been a very different person.
Oh, you could still be a very different person. You've met me now.
We are all tainted because of it.
The infection has set in.
You let her in.
Well, guys, I think that's a good stopping point for this League of Extremely Ordinary Gentlemen 0.5 extra. Thank you so much to Kayla for coming and joining us, because, well, I don't even have to thank you anymore. You're now part of the league, so you're just like, hey, it's my job.
Yeah. Start talking all gruff.
That's what I'm here for. Next time you come on, you can make fun of fish. It'll be great.
We'll show you the ropes.
It'll be
You got to drink more and make fun of fish, and
He'll
you're in.
be like, that's not fair. I was here first. You go, yeah, but she's a hot girl, and you're fish.
And you're fish.
Okay, this is the last part of the Lost 9.5, which I was saving for last for those who, don't follow Lost as religiously as we do, so they could actually listen to the first two parts without worrying. But this is the part where, if you haven't seen it, turn the podcast off, because we are going to spoil the shit out of it.
Spoiler alert!
Oh,
that's
that's awesome. So you
Spoiler
recorded
alert.
enough for people they could listen to part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, does it just start with previously on Leon?
No,
Someone set us up the bomb.
Boom! I did that joke already. And then Jack does something annoying.
Hey, man, don't talk shit
Whoa.
about Jack.
Okay.
We have to go back.
Jack's
All right.
Leon's boy.
All right, fair enough. And then Kate does something annoying.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah,
That bitch
okay.
can't make
Yeah,
up
for,
her mind.
for sure.
But I am
needs to
Cyrus.
die.
We've got here my other three Lost buddies, although Allison couldn't make it for mysterious reasons, and Jason because he's been struck down by some sort of illness.
Loser.
It's
Swine flu.
It's pretty funny how Jason was so mad at us that we didn't include him on the last Lost discussion. And at the last minute, he's like, "Oh, I can't be there now."
Oh, I can't make it.
This time we have Grant,
Hello.
Leon,
Of course.
and for the first time featured in her, without quite so much competition, Mary,
Yo, yo.
in her true element, because this is her geekiness.
Now-
Sure enough is.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, she wasn't into Lost at all until you showed it to her.
Actually, no, I
tried.
watched it on my own, so don't flatter yourself, Cyrus, because I sat down on my own accord and watched it.
Huh, that's not the story I heard.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
actually
well,
tried.
Cyrus talks up a lot of
I
things.
actually tried to get you to watch it like 4 times, and you just would be like, "This is doing nothing for me." And then all of a sudden, one day, she decided, "I changed my mind. I'm a Lost fan," and she sat down and she watched the entire run in like a month, just straight through. All
I have no
however
life,
many-
ladies and gentlemen.
Johnny come lately.
Only new
Johnina
kid in
come
town.
lately.
But
Yeah.
I feel like if I did that, I would start getting a nosebleed like Daniel Faraday.
Too much
Well,
to process.
I haven't been on the island as long as Daniel and all these other people, so therefore I wouldn't bleed.
she actually understands how this works, which just goes to show you here. Biggest Lost geek in the room. I hand the award to Mary, although Grant might fight for it.
Yeah, man, I tell you what.
Bring
to,
it.
To me,
Might be
nobody
a-
dissects that show like Mr. Grant over here.
Might be a Sawyer and Jack brawl off here.
Do you spend your free time on Lostpedia looking through all the little things?
He writes
have-
entries into Lostpedia.
Have you set up your own Lost ARG group and followed the ARG?
No. No, but at least Cyrus and I actually have sex, so that's probably the reason why that I don't have time to make up my own ARG.
Whoa,
Constantly.
whoa!
We're having sex right now. In fact.
It's awkward for the rest of us.
You know what?
here.
We don't believe that for a second. I'm gonna give that win to Grant.
Yeah, unless this is Demolition Man, you guys have some weird cone things where you're honing each other in to have sex because you
You
guys are
don't,
like 4
you don't
feet away.
watch the sheets, okay? So you speak
On
for
a
yourself.
larger geek level, you win automatically by referencing an obscure moment from Demolition Man. But
I remember that part. Is that where they put the little masks on to have sex?
Oh.
That's where they put the little virtual reality sex on.
Yeah,
And
those,
Sandra-
those
Oh, the kind that Cyrus has. Okay.
no, Mary is in fact real. You could touch her if I'd let you, but I won't.
I'm not a replicant, y'all.
she could be a smoke monster.
that's true. You won that auction.
But I'm curious. Yes, I did.
Cyrus still has
Sure.
the receipt.
I'm
got
not a
a-
replicant, y'all.
I got
I'm a real
another 6
person.
months left on my contract. All right. So one thing you mentioned right before we started, Leon, I'm very confused about. You said you don't consider yourself as big a fan as the rest of us.
No. You misunderstand me. I am a huge fan of Lost. I'm just saying, as much as I love the show and watch it all the time, I am nothing compared to you three. I mean, compared to you guys, I'm just somebody who watches the commercials. Because I know, like, what I watch it for is all the character stuff. That's what made me fall in love with it. And I love the mystery and the puzzles, but nobody loves it like Grant. Not only do I not naturally watch it for that, but because I know the next day after it, he's done such a detailed analysis, it makes me lazy. It's like, I'm not going to analyze it. I'm just going to come to work the next day and hear
his
Grant,
theories.
break down the science of it and pretty much nod with everything he says.
Yeah, like Jacob is Jack.
No. Wait a minute. Now he's had some crackpot theories. Now his Jacob is Jack. I thought was that was a possibility. But when he was trying to argue that
Might
Ben was
still
a
be.
good guy, he kept saying like, "No, I think Ben's a good guy." And it's like, dude, how many people does he have to kill?
The roles have kind of shifted, though.
well, good and bad are relative on the island.
The
He's
I think
still
so.
not. He may be like bad, not bad compared to some, but that doesn't make him not bad. You
Yeah,
know?
that's like saying,
everybody-
well, Jeffrey Dahmer didn't kill nearly as many people as Hitler.
What do you say, Mary?
Well, everybody's just taken a complete 180 this whole season. Sawyer became LaFleur, and he became an actual upstanding, responsible person. But Ben completely shifted because the manipulator is now the manipulatee. So he kind of got pwned by the nemesis, who was dressed as John Locke. So
The Man in Black, as they're calling him on the fan sites, which irritates me.
Or-
to
or
no
Loch
end.
Ness monster.
The
Esau.
Loch Ness monster is my
Yeah,
favorite.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're also calling him Esau for Jacob.
Yeah, because
and
they're
Esau.
saying, well, if it's a biblical reference, then
Yeah.
maybe he's actually Jacob.
The
from
two
Bible.
feuding
officially, he's
brothers.
known as the nemesis on Lostpedia.
Is he? Okay,
yeah,
'cause
they call him the nemesis.
Now,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken, I mean, everybody's making the Bible references to what's going on with the series, but if I'm not mistaken, everything that it's supposedly, being biblical about is all the stuff that the Bible stole from Egyptian mythology.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely a lot of this. It's more
It's both.
Egyptian times than well, of course they were the same time, really, but more from biblical references, possibly. I mean, it's hard to say when you look at that big mural that Jacob is putting together in the early times at the beginning of the episode. It's got hieroglyphics on it, but it's also got Greek on it and some other things that could be some other languages.
Yeah,
so.
it's the 1800s, long after those civilizations have crumbled. So
Well, is that? But is that necessarily the same sequence of the shot that comes after when you see him sitting on the
because
beach?
you see
Or
him
is that
making
way
he's
before?
weaving the big thing, and then he also cooks a fish. And according to the site, it takes place around the 1800s, 1850s.
No, I get
Oh,
that.
yeah.
but I'm
The
just
Black
saying.
Rock is sailing?
I'm just saying. I
Black
didn't
Rock.
feel like it necessarily said that first scene was immediately concurrent to the next
know.
scene. For all we know, they were separated in time too.
It could be. But interesting fact, that fish is an actual red herring fish.
Oh my God, are you serious?
It is, yes.
See,
Wow.
This guy's science
am
is
I-
too
am I
tight.
lost?
You
Yeah, for
cannot
those,
mess
who,
with him.
for those who don't
interesting.
know, a red herring is something you throw into a mystery that's a false lead, something that
Oh,
that
okay.
goes nowhere.
But many people say that the red herring itself is the red herring. It's supposed to throw you off and go, wait, obviously something is amiss here. When no, they're just trying to trick you into thinking that by
Wow.
throwing in a red herring.
Double and triple thinking
Yeah.
this stuff.
What?
I wonder how they're going to
Brain
explain the whole immortality thing with Alpert and with Jacob, because of course they both don't age, and I wonder, what that has to do with it. What
Oh,
made
they
Richard
absolutely
Alpert
have
so?
to.
Well, I mean, because every time we've seen Alpert, as far back as the 50s, he looks the same, and Jacob, as far back as we've seen him, he looks the same. And I
Well, that's
wonder-
what he said, that
they're
basically
deemed immortal
the
somehow.
fact that he doesn't age, Jacob made him like that.
Yeah, so how'd that
somehow.
happen? But like,
And
what-
so a lot of people are thinking that Alpert is one of the people that was on the Black Rock. And so at the beginning when we see that ship, that the Dark Man or the Nemesis and Jacob are talking about on the beach, who I think the Dark Man is a smoke monster, but we can come back to
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I think that seems to be. Actually, I don't even think it's. I think he is. I think there's really no doubt that he.
gotta
because
be.
you know that the
I
smoke
got
monster
doubts.
can manifest
Really?
itself.
Yeah, I got doubt in as much as the show. This is one of those shows that loves to, like, it says, please watch me,
Yeah.
speculate on what I'm doing,
And then
form your theories. You got your theories in place? Okay. Now, guess what? You're all wrong.
And yet, when
But
they
that's what I like about it.
When they pull
Me
the
too.
rug out from under you, they do it in a way that does feel organic and
Oh,
isn't
yeah.
bullshit. It
Yeah.
actually is like, oh,
And it has
I
continuity.
could have made that guess actually, but
Yeah.
I didn't, and no one else did either.
Yeah, and I am just sick of all the people going like, I think they're making it up as they go along. It's like,
Please.
if seriously, if you actually watch the show or watch when they do the recap episodes where they have the producers on to tell you about, like, yeah, we totally had this plan and we couldn't wait to do this,
Yeah.
and now
They're
this
good
leads
with
into that. It's
continuity.
like, these aren't guys who are making it up on the fly.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, like the confusion lays from people seeing interviews where they're talking about the stuff that did come later.
Sure.
Because they wrote a guiding script. Here's all the plot points we need to hit. Here are the major events that need to happen to come to this conclusion all the way through based on this main original series of characters. Certain things were added along the way and certain characters were expanded.
Yeah,
Or-
like-
Ben,
like
Ben's
Ben.
role,
yeah,
absolutely.
well, originally I think there was supposed to be a totally different character other than Ben that would do the stuff he ended up doing. But they just said, well, we'll just make that be Ben because everybody loves him so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's- I got to say, man, that guy is one of the best villains that TV has ever had.
Oh, yeah. No question.
He is brilliant. Someone was asking, I think it was Detfink was asking on one of the groups what character from Lost we thought would have a lasting impression on our culture 20 years later, and I was like, Ben, easy.
Yeah.
I think he's phenomenal. He goes above and beyond the show itself, even as far as what he's doing. it's just captivating to
Yeah,
watch him. Whereas
as good as the show is, there's something about the combination of the way that character is written and just the way that actor chooses to play it that is just iconic.
Well,
really.
I've gone from really hating him to like I hang on his every word. Anytime he pops up on screen, I can't wait to see or hear what he's going to say next.
Which is funny because, like, you know, we know he lies with everything he
Everything he
says.
says.
So it
It's
almost
just-
doesn't
Yeah.
matter what he says.
It's always just been it's been interesting this season to watch him go from this highly feared, oh, this man can make your life a living hell villain to this completely innocuous little puppy, essentially. So,
Well,
But-
not quite a puppy since he
But-
actually murders
I mean-
the god of the island.
right.
yeah, but-
and also, like Leon was saying, maybe he is. This could be him
But
just
at the
doing
same
another
time-
big play. I mean,
they know that
I don't
they
believe
give you
time
enough
and
reason
again.
to kind of empathize with them. It's like, yeah, he had a shitty upbringing. That doesn't excuse it, but the same way it helps you make him more human in your eyes.
I mean,
Oh,
what
not
if
me.
what if he knew he would end up killing him, and what if he played Smoke Monster Locke
But at the same time, what was this him?
or Flock as
Flock.
people are referring
I
to
like
him
the
as.
Loch Ness
Fake
Monster
Loch, yeah.
myself.
Loch
I
so,
thought it was
yeah.
Loch Less Monster.
I always heard Loch
I don't
Ness
know.
Monster, but
Sure.
either way,
Loch
that
Ness
works
Monster.
too. Okay, so the biggest thing here, and you know what? The first time I saw this episode through, I kind of was disappointed with it because I felt like most of the episode was just going back to the love triangle that I
Oh
fucking
yeah,
can't.
there's
stand.
definitely
Okay.
some things we could
Okay,
explain
Alright.
about.
Kate
let's,
needs to
yeah,
get
if we're going
over
to get
it.
on that.
Well, I want to get back to that, but I want to get to my point here though. Is that once I sat back and thought about everything that happened in this episode, I realized I need to take the entire last season and rewrite all the events in my head based on this new information about who Locke is. That Locke hasn't been Locke since the beginning of the season.
Well,
He's
actually,
been
since
had
he
a
died.
completely well. That's the beginning of the season.
Kinda.
Because we haven't seen Locke reincarnated since this season, so it's like, and he wasn't alive at any point in this season either.
Well, yeah,
He
you
died
see
at the
him
end of
alive
last
because you
season.
see him die. this
Yeah,
season.
exactly.
Yeah.
But since he's been rejuvenated, which was early on in this season, he hasn't been Locke. He's
kinda been
He's
Locke,
been the
though.
Nemesis for sure, and maybe the Smoke Monster.
I mean,
from what I read,
there's definitely elements of Locke, I think, in this Flock monster.
Well, he definitely is capable of reading his memories.
Yeah,
his
yeah,
spirit.
he's better with dead people, and that's probably what makes him the best candidate for being the smoke monster. Just because the smoke monster tended to pick characters that were from the past or also deceased. But I mean,
Or we saw the Nemesis, okay,
Right.
or Flock. We'll just call him Flock for sake of ease. We saw Flock manipulate Locke when he was flashing around in time on the island into dying intentionally. Remember that?
because
Sure.
he was
Flock-
showing up as Christian
Flock
Shepherd and
sent-
saying, "You got to die."
Well, no,
Yeah.
Flock.
Wait a minute.
well,
You're saying that guy is Christian Shepherd?
Christian
Oh,
Shepherd did
Yeah.
it, and Flock did
'Cause
it
Christian
because
Shepherd was
Flock
dead when he came on the
Flock
island.
sent Richard Alpert to go fix John Locke's wound,
Right.
and then told him again to tell him that he
To
was
tell
going to
him.
have to die.
Yeah.
Okay, now wait a minute. So we know that Flock himself is the one who set all this in motion, making Locke think that yes, in fact, he does have to die for this to happen. Because, and the only reason for that makes sense is, and if you follow the show, this seems to follow, the smoke monster / nemesis, whatever, can only imitate someone or take on their features if they died on the island, or not died on the island, or if they're on the island dead, one way or the
Okay.
other.
'Cause Christian
and
Shepherd-
so
Yeah.
Locke would have to die, and the whole setup for getting his body back to the island for
So
this thing to
Well, now,
Nemesis
what
to be able to
about
take
the
him
first
over.
time that Ben killed Locke? When he shot him in the gut.
He didn't die.
But
because the
bullshit,
island
you
can
do
heal
not
you.
die. You do not live from a wound like
he
from a
walked though
gunshot
as soon
like
as
that.
Yeah,
he
you
landed
can.
on the island.
Yeah, the island healed him.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
they've-
island
they've
can heal
established
you.
that
It just
also.
can't bring you back to
but
life.
he died off of the island, so that makes a difference.
If he had like, you know,
But you guys are saying like, oh well, once you're off the island, you aren't under the island's
'Cause
protection.
island's special.
But what about Michael? Michael tried to kill himself several times off the island, and it was like, oh, you can't die till the island says you can. Die.
I think the island still has an effect on you after. It's just not
Yeah.
as powerful.
Well,
That's
also,
all.
I mean, if Ben had
the
that
dude tried to
cancer
kill
cured-
himself, and it wouldn't let it happen.
I
Because
don't know.
in the future he had something he obviously did. If this is a time loop and he had to still get on that freighter and push the button in some time loop, I guess.
Right, so
Then
the others can
him
see.
trying to kill himself before he fulfills his destiny would be impossible, right?
I mean,
Yeah,
the determination here seems to be one of predestination on this show. They keep trying to fight it,
Very
but yet,
Calvinistic approach.
yes, it is. Thank
But
you,
at the
Mrs.
same time-
Smarty Pants.
I know. Let's
At the same
wrap a
time,
big brain
like a
on
pony.
Mary.
Jacob really tries to emphasize free will at the end when he says, "You know, Ben, you have a choice."
But
in
that's
this.
also
Don't
a big
forget that.
part
I
of
love that.
Calvinism too.
Ben, you have a choice. but I'm going to be a total fucking asshole to you to make you pick the choice that
There's
I
a
want
lot
you to
of-
pick.
There's a lot of undertones of like free will and predestination, which were all part of like Calvinistic churches. So part of me wonders if this is like secretly funded by the Presbyterian Church of the U.S. or something.
Wow, now you're scaring me.
Oh,
Jacob,
no.
I get everything you said. What about me?
The Vatican's going to
Well,
tell me.
What about you?
What about you? Biatch!
Yeah.
Bring it.
You know, I can't help but feel like, you know, the whole Jacob thing, like he knew all this was going to happen. Like they're going to go with a sort of God versus Satan type of thing.
Or
Where it's like,
Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Vader.
yeah, well, it's like, well, you know, I knew you were going to go. The Nemesis was going to do all this eventually because, I mean, let's face it, these guys are time travelers one way or the other. I mean, we've seen Jacob jump around through time,
Sure.
and whatever.
But if
they have
Jacob-
some level of control of all that stuff, I think he knew everything that was going to end up happening one way or the other, and there is some end game goal for Jacob here. It's not. We haven't seen the last of him.
And are we all sure that Jacob is
I was just
good?
about to ask if Jacob would actually truly die, because apparently if they're supposedly immortal, but is that what the loophole was all about? Because surely they're going to bring Jacob back eventually. You can't just
Well,
kill
yeah,
him.
because he set up his Horcruxes. That was what the whole episode was about.
But
He
Well,
went
that's
through
like-
and he
part of me
touched.
doesn't want to believe.
He touched every one of those people, with the exception of Juliet's flashback. He made a point of touching them. When he handed the pen, he touched them. He touched Hurley. He touched
John.
Jack handing the candy bar. John
And Ilana.
and
Jacob.
well,
Christ,
Alana, he doesn't really,
Well,
but
because she was in the
superstar.
hospital.
She's just already
What
a
the
chosen
hell was that touching shit about?
well, it's that he's. I mean, one theory is that he's making Horcruxes
I'm
of
sorry,
them,
what is
where
that?
he's
That's
able
a
to
theory.
Harry Potterism.
I'm
He's
sorry,
able
did
to.
Horcruxes
What is
exist
that?
before Harry Potter?
No, I
He's
should.
just using it
I'm
as
just
an
using the
Okay,
term.
can somebody
idea.
tell me
No,
what
no, I
Horcruxes
understand.
are?
No,
he's
I know.
putting his power.
He's
or
inputting
something
his
into them, or part of
soul
his soul.
into them.
like a piece of himself.
Yeah.
He's imparting his power.
Part of his
onto
soul,
him.
so that when they all reconverge after his death, he can reincarnate is an idea.
And to be fair, he repeatedly through the show, there are all these things where the others or whoever is all trying to gather that specific group of people and make sure that they come back to the island or they all go to the others or whatever. It's like it's always that group of people. They're always like, okay, we need them to be here.
Yeah.
Fuck everybody else. They need to be here.
Yeah, and he says they're coming at the end right after he's stabbed before he
Yeah.
gets kicked into the fire.
Part of me wonders, is that like Alana and her crew with Bram and all
It could
that?
be because
Don't
we
they secretly work
we
for
don't
Jacob?
necessarily know if
Yeah.
what lies in the shadow of the statue.
Alana
the
is
one
privy
who
to a
saves
lot
us
more
is him.
information
Well-
about Jacob and his knowings and how he works. So it lets you on to believe that she's maybe his earthly liaison somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Well,
Well, it's
Alpert
pretty
is-
cool because before, from last season, it was like, okay, this is coming down to a war between Ben and Widmore. But then as this has gone on, it's been
They're
like,
pawns.
like, what if there was like another player that we don't know about?
Yeah.
And as
this
it
would
turns
be
out,
it.
there's two big other players.
Well, like I said, they're both pawns for
Yeah.
these other things. I don't think Ben realized the level or the degree that he was, and I think that Charles did, and that's partially why he was kicked off the island. I think. I suspect he had some
Yeah,
idea.
they never say why he was banned. They just say it's because you had a kid with an outsider, which was apparently Penny. But
Yeah.
but so you think that maybe
And
he
Daniel.
figured out? Well, Daniel was
Yeah, it was
father,
on the island,
He was
though, obviously.
Eloise Hawkins, so she was on the island. But I don't know who Penny's mother is, but apparently she was not an islander.
And by the way, I don't think we've seen the last of Faraday, only because we know that he was jumping around in time
Yeah.
when he was at college, when he had the college thing, and we have no idea where or when he went, but we did see that one scene where he was, before he goes to the island, at the beginning of last season,
Yeah.
we see him crying watching the survivors of flight, what is it, 815?
It's the faked one that Charles Widmore paid a lot of
Yes,
money
but he
for,
didn't
so-
know that. But the point is, he's crying, and he doesn't even know why because he can't keep track of his memories at that
Right.
point. My thought is, well, that must mean he got to know them at some point during those earlier time jumps.
That or
we
he had
just
like some side
haven't
effects
seen.
from all the time travel because apparently it makes you disoriented. I'm not sure, but
Right, but why would he cry specifically like that? And they make this big point of mentioning that, and that he doesn't know why he's crying. And that's something that's very pointed. It feels like that's well, we're going to get that again. Plus, I mean, God, when Grant and I saw this, we saw it at the Alamo, and the woman who runs these things was like, "Fuck this episode." When they
when
killed
Faraday dies,
yeah, I was at that one too.
we all felt
were you
like
at that
that.
one
It's
too?
like,
Yeah, that's the one I went to.
Okay.
They can't take away Faraday.
Yeah,
he has all the answers, maybe.
Whereas
that he won't tell us.
Yeah, he won't tell
Well,
anybody.
also-
he won't tell you unless Sawyer comes over and slaps the shit out of him.
Speaking of characters who probably haven't used up their time yet, I'm really hoping that Desmond does come back because
He's
back
not
when
coming
wait,
back.
hold on, I can prove this because back when they first introduce him and he goes in '96 when he's dating Penny, he meets Eloise Hawken in that jewelry shop and he buys that ring for her, but she tells him the island isn't finished with him yet, and I mean he just left and lived on a houseboat, had a kid with Penny. I really think he's got a greater purpose somewhere.
he's still a main cast member. He's going to be back.
Yeah, he's gotta be
in
back
some way.
because-
but I thought all that took place before.
Well,
he
this
went
happened
to the
in
island.
'96 whenever he was dating Penny, and he first met Eloise Hawkins, but he didn't figure out that
But
she
Eloise was saying that he has to go to the island so he can push the button. for
right.
Wheels of
But
Destiny, right?
even afterwards, though, I mean, still, I think he's got a greater purpose, and I just want Desmond to come back. Damn it! Don't
Yeah,
spoil
I
my
know,
fun.
I don't
I know
think
all
your
the ladies
argument
want
carries.
Desmond back.
Give me
I'm
my
sorry.
hot
I think
Scott.
what I think is important to note about that was right after he pushed that or released energy on the Swan Hatch and
And
it
that's what
exploded
made the
at the end
plane
of
crash.
season 2, and that season 2 pretty much parallels season 5 in the fact that at the end Julia explodes the bomb. So whereas everyone's thinking, oh, Juliet's dead. Maybe she isn't. In a similar way, she might all of a sudden jump through time in a huge release of energy like that.
It's funny because when I saw the end, that when she sets off the bomb, all I could think about was Planet of the Apes 2. No,
I haven't seen that in so long, man. I don't
Well,
even
that's just
remember.
it ends with Charlton Heston as he's dying. He sets off the bomb that completely blows up the earth.
They set us up the bomb.
And then it goes to the
You stole my
mysterious
bit.
white letters. This is the first time we've ever seen Lost
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
white letters.
All right, what were you going to say, Mary? You're
I just had
frantically
Well, I just had another
gesticulating.
question because this has been on my mind all week. Well, we first are introduced to Radzinski in the second season when Desmond's explaining his time in the hatch because Radzinski originally lived with Kelvin
Yeah,
and then
right.
killed himself, and there's that big blood stain on the ceiling.
And he made the map.
I
and
hope
then
we
after
get to see that, by the way.
Yeah,
'cause
he
I
made
hate
the
that
map and he made it
motherfucker.
with laundry
Who?
detergent.
Radzinski? Oh, yeah, he
Radzinski,
sucks.
yeah. So, and then after Radzinski dies, Kelvin's by himself until Desmond comes along. Desmond's his partner until he kills Kelvin, and then Desmond's by himself to the island people. But my question is, I hope they come back and explain what happened with Radzinski and why did he go bonkers and off
Oh, yeah,
himself.
me too. Because
I don't know.
want to
I
see
don't-
him die
Because
horribly.
they see him building the Swan.
I
but-
kind of bet it won't. I think this was just the game changer. It won't ever get to that.
But surely they would answer that question.
don't
They've been
think-
pretty good about answering even the little tiny details.
I
you
don't
can
think the
figure
game
out.
has changed. Is
Well,
what
if
I'm
she
saying.
blows up
I
a
think
nuke, that place is all radioactive.
like I said, I think that the predestination thing they're going to stick with. They all think they're changing the future, but I don't think that's what's going to happen.
so
at
this was
all.
just the incident that they talked about.
And my guess is what's happening is what I've been saying for a while. There's a whole nother time period now that we haven't seen them go to yet. There's
1800s.
now there's two others. There's whenever the temples were built and all that stuff, all that early time, and then there's like the 1800s, whatever we saw in the
Black
beginning of
Rock.
this episode, the Black Rock thing. So there's other time periods we haven't seen yet, and I suspect we're going to see them at least for the first several episodes of the season
They're gonna
back
explain
in
the
one of
origins.
those, which I bet you anything is what happens to the statue.
And let me just say,
And another
because
thing,
the show welcomes your little pathetic theories and your I suspects. Just so
How do
it
I
can
turn
laugh
his
at
mic
those.
off?
another thing. Speaking of the statue, whenever we looked it up, what's the name of the Egyptian?
Taweret.
Taweret.
Yeah, the
And it's apparently
goddess
of
fertility.
pregnancy.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that something having to do with it being knocked down maybe made it so that the women die in
Yeah,
pregnancy.
because they
Yeah.
weren't always that way,
Yeah.
apparently. So
And
it's like
back in
maybe
the
that-
70s, whenever Ethan was born, he was.
We don't know he was born on the island.
Well, no, because at the beginning of the season,
Wait,
Juliet's
don't
a
we see-
doctor,
we see
and
him
she
born.
Oh,
helps.
you're right,
She
you're
helps
right.
Horace's wife give birth to Ethan.
Yeah,
Oh,
She has to
Horus
give
is
a
an
C-section.
Egyptian
That's
god,
that-
too.
Yeah, I know. What is that moment when he comes down? She said, "Oh, we're going to name him Ethan," and you go like, "Oh, that's too bad."
So do you guys think that at the time of the incident in this episode we just saw, the statue was still up and now it's going to get blown up because of the incident?
No, I just don't know. I'm
No,
thinking
I'm
it has something to do with the lack of the statue
The
and the
statue
whole
is up
pregnancy
in
issue.
the 1800s because
Yeah,
we
but-
see it up in the 1800s.
But maybe it's up
not
still
up
now, right?
No, because actually,
Maybe
they
the
don't
bomb
show
makes
us
them
77, I
explode
guess.
I don't
back
think
to
they
the
showed us in the
1800s,
70s
and then it-
whether
Yeah.
or not it was.
So maybe we'll see it end up
Well, what
crumbling
I'm
during
thinking
the
is,
incident.
I think it blew up in the 1800s. Is what I'm saying. I think that's when it happens. Is my guess.
Maybe
because I think
the-
that because they bothered showing us that time period, we're going to see more. Plus, pirates. Come on,
That's
who doesn't
true.
want to see fucking pirates
Yeah.
on Lost? That would be awesome as fuck.
Yeah. Hey, maybe we get to see the cast come back as pirates.
That would be too.
I'm
cool.
thinking that explosion also messes with the electromagnetism on the island, which makes them go back in time, and maybe they'll wake up in the 1800s times, and maybe that has something to do with the statue falling down.
I'm just really sad that because they're already in the 70s, we knew that at the beginning of this season, and they should have opened the season with like the characters all walking down a hallway in slow motion, playing like dun 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 dun
Little Disco Inferno.
burn, baby, burn.
So if they all
explosion, burn.
if they all flash back to the past, then perhaps they are the reason the island is special. What if they go back to the past and create events that affect their future past?
But then
Well,
Jacob mentioned it at the beginning of the episode, talking about the island will find a loophole, or that it'll change people. That's just the way it goes, or it's just progress. Everything else is just progress. So apparently it was like that before. But I mean, it could be that.
I think
Well-
like it seems like all right. So from the theory, just that everything happened a certain way and it always happened that way. They're not actually changing anything in time. They always had gone back and done that. So everything that happened up to that way happened partially because they went back in time and those things had happened. I know that's complex.
No, well,
but
may I introduce the
suspect-
variable then?
Yeah.
We in
Just
the
according
episode,
to Faraday. Just according to
Faraday suggests that people are the variable, which is ridiculous that a scientist
Because
wouldn't
Penny
factor
was the
in
constant,
people
and she's a
initially.
people.
But I think what we've seen since the beginning of the show is that there's one person that was never supposed to be on the flight and never arrive on the island. And that is Hurley. I think Hurley is the variable because he employed the
true.
numbers, and the numbers were so unlucky that they ended up jinxing him to be so unlucky as to
And he
get
was
on the
probably-
plane.
Why do you say
he was
never
probably
supposed
not
to be
meant
there?
to be on the plane because he was late getting up to go to the
There's
airport?
that whole
and he-
episode where everything is trying to get in his way, and yet somehow he gets by it to still get on the plane, and he's delayed. And then he gets up to the ticket counter, and the woman says, "I don't think you're supposed to make this flight because he's too late," and he thinks he's going to board. I think they're trying to say he was never supposed to be on this flight. He's the one person who can change things in the time loop
And
because
yet
he's a
Jacob
new
wanted
variable
him.
that was introduced.
And
into
yet
it.
Jacob wanted him to come. So
Jake only after he had already been there the first time on the
okay,
island.
but let's
Did
say
Jacob visit Hurley? I can't remember.
He does after
Yes.
in the taxi
but-
cab.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
that's
the
right,
only
yeah.
one who's visited after
And-
all the
When Hurley's getting his supplies
events.
out of the prison, right after he gets released from prison, the things he's given are a pen, a candy bar, and something else. All that tie into the things Jacob was giving other people when he was going
Gave
back
him a
and
pen,
touching
He
them.
got the candy bar for Jack, and
Jack?
he got the.
I don't think there was a New Kids on the Block lunchbox.
I know. So he bought that.
See,
for
this is the kind of shit that you guys all like latch on to.
We-
that I'm like,
we
whoa,
researched this
did all
shit
that
heavily.
happen?
Oh yeah,
If there's just-
Lostpedia.com, darkufo.blogspot. I mean, there's
If there's such a thing as a
There's
PhD in Lostology, sign me up, man.
only 8 more years and 6 thesis
Fuck
papers,
yeah.
and you'll be ready.
I could do it.
you understand how all the philosophers play into each of the
Yeah,
characters.
John Locke. He was one of the free will type philosophers,
And
and,
in fact,
Jeremy Bentham was a
Jared
contemporary
Bentham was a
of his
contemporary
time.
of John Locke. They're
And
both named
Desmond
after
Hume.
philosophers.
Desmond, he was a Scottish. David Hume was the original guy that they based it off of.
Rousseau is one, right?
Yeah, Rousseau is one.
Yeah, I didn't
There's a
research
lot of
her.
the characters are named after either philosophers or gods or
Yeah.
Or
people
biblical
from myth-
characters,
or
Aaron.
people from mythology. Yeah, well, that's what I said. People from mythology, but
Well, an interesting thing happened, if I may segue briefly. After the show ended, the Lost ARG popped up online. The ARG, you guys might know, is the alternate reality game, or the Lost Experience. They like to do in between seasons. They do fun little things where they'll have you try and solve clues to figure out videos. Some of them will be like Dharma videos, orientation videos, whatever. This one started out on Twitter, of all places, where there was a...
actually, I wish you could see Leon's shoulders
Leon doesn't like
droop
Twitter.
and-
He hates it. The first one was a who is Simeon Hobbs, which was also called WISH for the acronym for it. And you were it was this person trying to track who this character Simeon Hobbs is, who led their brother off. Like their brother disappeared, and they believe Simeon Hobbs was responsible for it. So Simeon Hobbs had an account with cryptic codes. There was like 3 other Twitters, and they were all like talking to each other. And then like 7 or 8 other ones started popping up too, and everyone's trying to track all these things. They'd post codes that you would decode in base 64 and Morse code, and
Jesus
you'd see
Christ.
videos.
Thank you.
It was all
That's
over
more
the place.
time than I would. I love Lost, and I'm not doing that shit.
But
I'm trying to keep up with like 18 different TV shows
oh,
right now.
it became hectic, and there's a reason it became hectic. Because it turns out the whole thing was fake. I ended up setting up a group on Spill that was Lost ARG group, which you guys can join for at Comic-Con. I believe they are actually going to officially start this. But I thought it started early, and I was trying to track it, and it was all exciting. But it turns out one person tried to do their own little fun ARG, which he was going to admit it's not real. It's just fanfic kind of thing. But other people got on Twitter and started messing with him and also trying to claim they were part of it, and it just got too chaotic and out of control. And so the poor guy who put all this effort into like planning his ARG had to come clean and confess, hey, it's all fake and I'm sorry. And you guys probably don't want to follow this anymore, and a lot of people dropped off, and he lost them. But
Did they say "arg" out of
yeah,
frustration?
I did. It's like Lost ARG, more like Lost
What does
ARG.
ARG stand for anyway?
Alternate reality game.
Oh, okay.
He just said that.
I thought maybe it was like a new thing, and then it would be a hint that it is going to be pirates next season.
I guess. I guess as the Lost creators usually do, they're probably going to announce something at Comic-Con, which I guess you folks will be there. So hopefully
Maybe.
one of you will be a representative and go there.
I'm sure Leon will. I'm still waiting to see definite. I mean, it's like I told him repeatedly. It's like, yeah, I'll go, but you're paying for me to get there. I'm not going to go unless someone's buying
Hint,
me the
hint,
flight.
hint.
And like, okay, and I'm still not hearing anything about that.
Things are looking
so.
positive.
Okay, well, that's good to know because I'd love to be there. Never been. In fact, I was just reading a book I got called I Heart Geeks. It's like a girl guide to give your girl her manual for her geek.
Are you
and it's
reading it?
kind of entertaining. Well, I'm curious. I want to make sure I can black out anything she shouldn't know. But there's a whole thing about saying any self-respecting comic geek has been to San Diego Comic-Con several times. I was like, fuck you.
I'm not a self-respecting geek.
It'll blow your mind the first time you go.
That's what everybody says. Okay, now before we go into I want to go a brief list of the unanswered questions. Let's talk about what we got cut off from by me earlier, which is the thing that didn't work in this
Oh,
season.
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, the love triangle?
Well,
Yeah,
the
the-
season?
Well,
We all go round table and
I-
list
I-
one
I-
thing.
The
I
last
love-
5 episodes.
I loved every episode this season. I only had a problem with some of the finale.
Yeah.
And
That'd
the
be
part of it was
accurate,
that not realizing it was a 2-hour episode. I watched the hour-long recap. So I had 3 hours of Lost that night.
Kind
It
of
was just-
Lost fan
and-
are you, not knowing
Man,
it's a
three
2-hour event?
hours is just too much of
It's
anything.
a 2-hour event
Nuh-uh.
every time.
I know, but I thought 1 hour was recap. So for the finale, for most of it, I'm like, okay. I was starting to get kind of sleepy. Of course, in that last 15 minutes, oh my God, the whole thing blew up.
Yeah.
But the only thing out of it that I just actually did not like is the fact that, okay, I don't make a secret of the fact that Jack is my favorite character.
Oh,
And I
yes,
love-
this was stupid.
And I love that Jack was motivated and when he was doing it. When he reveals his motivation was like, I'm doing this so I can get back together with Kate.
Yeah, that was
I
lame.
threw down the bullshit.
Because
flag.
I know I
Yeah.
can never be with her or whatever. It was just like,
They kept doing stuff like that through this whole episode, though.
Y'all
where
need
you're
to
like,
get over Kate. She's not that damn special.
it's not y'all. None of us like her.
No. I'm just
Oh,
saying
okay.
y'all as the fans.
I mean, she
Okay.
is like us. I agree that at this point she's an
Most fans
essential
don't
part of
like
the
her.
mythology because she's been there from the beginning.
Sure.
There's no question that she figures heavily into the final ending, so they're not going to kill her off, or at least not till the very end.
but
Man,
they
I
made
was-
a cool female character named Juliet.
And
Yes.
then,
I was
still
just
think-
thinking whenever
Maybe.
Juliet and Kate and them were all in the submarine, and I was just thinking, God, this has got to be the most awkward menage a trois ever.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, Sawyer's he's all hooked up with Juliet, and then Kate comes around, and he's all kind of like capitulating. Well, I'm sorry,
Man.
I'm sorry, that's the wrong word. But he's kind of like they're like, ooh, I don't
Copulating.
know, maybe,
Copulating.
No, not
maybe
yet.
I want Kate instead. It's like, dude, what the
Pontificating.
fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
If you have Juliet who has your back and will shoot a guy
Yeah.
to
But
protect
even
you,
Juliet-
and she's hotter,
even
and
Juliet
smart.
was being bitchy about it because Sawyer came to the
Oh, yeah.
realization, you know what? I'm being a dumbass. It's about staying
She
with
had
her.
a
And she's
180
like,
turn on
"No,
her personality for this
I
episode.
have to give you up because I had a really traumatic childhood experience.
My parents got
with my
divorced.
parents getting divorced, which
and
means
I know
that
it's never going to work out.
and no one will ever love me. I'm like, oh, please take your Prozac and fucking stay with him. This is dumb.
No. I couldn't fault her for that. Just from the way he was acting. It's like, if we've been together for 3 years and gone through all this, and you love me and you say it every day, and yet she comes around, your head's turned like that, you know what, dude? Fuck you.
I'd
rather you go ahead now with my blessing. Rather
Hey,
than
Sawyer
sneak
always
around with
said
her.
freckles.
I don't buy that for a second. She's like, what? His head turned and he looked at her, so therefore it's over? That's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
All
Ladies,
guys
your
would be
heads
in
are
trouble
gonna
if that
turn.
was the case.
I was gonna say it'd be like Mary would be like would have broken up with me after 2 days, you know?
Oh,
It'd been
shit.
like, oh my god, you looked at another woman. Oh no.
Please, I drool about
It's
dudes
not another
in front
woman.
of
It's your
Cyrus, so
ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, you do.
I have no room to talk.
Hey,
Yeah.
we hang out with most of my ex-girlfriends.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
And then for Jack, I mean, man, Jack is my boy. He's been so cool and keeping it together. But the idea that he wants to get back together with Kate, it's like,
Well-
yeah, Kate, yeah, the things with us we're actually, you know, I want to get back together with her because everything was so great. Well, except for that time I was trying to rescue her, and I saw her on video fucking you in the polar bear cave.
Yeah.
That part wasn't so good.
I gotta tell you, that was one of my favorite parts of this whole season where Kate was going, you know, what are you talking about? It wasn't all awful. And he's pretty much like, fuck you, bitch.
I know.
It was pretty much all awful.
Yeah, I know. After that, it's like, well, why is he trying
It's
to
like,
get back
you were
with
pretty
her?
much a two-timing cunt the entire time. I couldn't trust you for a second, and the moment things seemed fine, you'd flip out and take off.
or the minute there's
can't
danger,
handle it.
she's packing a suitcase.
Yeah, she
I mean,
is.
I mean, really, if Jehovah's Witnesses showed up at her door, she'd be in the bedroom packing a suitcase, ready to
climbing through the
move.
window. Yeah.
I would like to give Jack the benefit of the doubt that or the writers an out in that it was the heat of the moment and he gave Sawyer a reason
I hope
that
that's what it
maybe
is.
he thought
Oh
would
my
leave him
God.
alone or something.
Oh my
Because
God, I hope that's what it
it
is.
seems like Jack became a person of faith as soon as he came back to the island, and he was just waiting for the island to give him some mission. And finally, it comes in Faraday saying, "We gotta blow up this island." He's like, "Finally, yeah, this whole thing has been a piece of shit. My life has gone to hell ever since I came to this island. So I have a purpose." And then he's challenged by Sawyer to be like, "No, you have to give me a reason." And he's like,
I
love
wanna get
Kate.
together with Kate.
yeah, and all of a sudden, fist to the face. I think that there's just been tension between the two characters that the writers really wanted an excuse to have a fight between them finally, and they're like, "How about he says this? That'll be a good thing to spark a fight." But Juliet was just unacceptable. Her thing was she just became manic
I
at the
cried
end.
I
whenever
liked-
she fell down.
I liked
it
her
was
so
sad.
much.
Oh.
For the last season and a half, I really liked her a lot, and this just felt to me out of character, like a last minute. Well, we've got to have that love triangle back between Kate, Sawyer, and Jack. And to be honest, some of the viewership dropped off from the female viewership who complained.
Oh,
I don't
let 'em
understand
go.
what's going on in the show anymore. I just want to see more of the Jack Kate. That's what they're bitching. That's what
And
I
I mean,
see.
they have a
So.
point. They wanted to come back and readdress the love triangle. They don't want to leave that unresolved, I guess. But although
I felt
us,
it was resolved.
we'd be fine with it, but
Yeah.
a
I
lot of
felt it
people
wa-
weren't.
I felt it was resolved. What else is there to say about it? I don't think it was being unresolved. I think it was trying to get those viewers back is all it is. And I think that's lame because it was the last 2 seasons were as good as the show's ever been. And focusing on that, it's just like, oh, come on, guys. We've already been through this bullshit.
Aside from that sucking up like way too much of the finale, there's only one other thing I had, and it's really petty. But when they do Juliet's flashback, why do her parents look like they're straight out of a contemporary Gap
Exactly.
commercial?
Why does the
I
house
was
look like it came from an
yeah.
issue of Better Homes and Gardens?
I was like, that's
Everything
not
looked-
the 70s.
I
was
thought
time
that too.
traveling
Yes.
too, maybe.
Yeah, that was the one time when it didn't look like it fit in the time period, and it just
Yeah.
really bugged me.
She's
That did
from
too.
the
I'm glad I'm not the only one who
future.
thought
Perhaps
that.
these flashbacks aren't of what really happened, but are of everybody's memories.
That was a suggestion they had early on in like season 1 or 2 that the flashbacks were something else completely. But interesting you bring that up because another theory, instead of the Horcrux theory of Jacob touching everyone and them coming back or them resurrecting him, another idea was that Jacob touching them was that they will get a second chance in life to come back to that exact moment, but with the knowledge they have.
Yeah, because it's always at the most pivotal points in their life, like whenever Jack talks about the count to 5 thing, and whenever Kate starts getting into her life of crime by stealing the lunchbox, and also when John becomes paraplegic. So it's always at the most pivotal points in their life, and it's also referred to back heavily when they're on the island. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a, from this point on, you have a greater purpose.
You
thing.
think he could have touched Locke before he became
I know.
paraplegic
Yeah,
if that's the
yeah.
case,
If I was,
so.
You know
But
what?
he
See,
knows-
that's
kinda lame.
This is what infuriates me about Jacob. Like, whether they say Jacob is the good guy, no, Jacob is a fucking asshole. He's the same kind of like Christ figure, just like what's his name, Aslan, the lion, who likes to show up after so many of your guys got slaughtered and come in and go like, oh wait, now I will stop the
No,
battle.
you're right.
And help you. It's like, dude, 10 minutes ago you could have saved so many lives.
You know what they need? They need William Shatner to come in the last episode and go, what does God need with an island?
Just like Leonard Nimoy pops up at the
Yeah.
end of Fringe.
Yeah,
You see that?
yeah. John Locke, I came to change your life in a direction. It's like, wow, if you could have came 25 minutes ago and said, look, your dad is going to throw you out a window. Don't go up there.
Yeah.
But maybe
That would've been so helpful.
Maybe there's a reason they come back to that point, because maybe if it was before that, they wouldn't have the motivation. Like John Locke might be now motivated by that fact that he knows he can no longer just trust his father or have love for him anymore, and going to the island will restore his ability to walk. Maybe that was his motivation, that he had to touch him right at that point. And maybe
And Sawyer.
Maybe Kate had no hang up, so he could touch her right at the point where she was trying to do bad, and maybe she'll change her life. Sawyer,
What's
right
weird
at the
is
point where
him
he's
motivating-
bitter about his father.
Yeah, but he motivates him to stay bitter.
Exactly.
Yeah, the other guy who
The other
shows
guy's
up after that
dude,
is like, don't do this.
Don't write that. Just let's forget it. Let's
And-
move on.
And then
So you got
Jacob's
a
the one who
pen?
says, no,
no,
here's a pen.
Here,
You
write
want
it
to write
down.
this
You want to hold
letter
on to
out.
this.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe that's going to be significant.
Yeah.
In the fact that he'll remember, because I mean they make a point where Sawyer brings up the fact that, hey, what happens, and there's nothing you can do to change that, Jack.
Yeah.
Because he's quoting that second guy who came up to him. But maybe if he goes back and has all his memories at that point, when that guy comes up and says that, he's like, bullshit. I can change shit now. Obviously, I have my same memories.
It's funny.
But then again, it'd be weird if it was a little kid saying bullshit.
Listening to Grant after like 2 minutes is like taking an advanced quantum physics course.
Oh, I know.
When you don't
He's
know
Daniel
anything
Faraday.
about it. I just like, wow, dude. I watch the show religiously. I read all this stuff, and even you're kind of losing me.
I'm sorry.
Like, wow.
Okay, let me.
It's only because you're so goddamn smart. That's all.
Yeah, let me bring it back
He's
home
stupid.
a little bit now for the dumb people. Who didn't love it when Phil got crushed?
That was awesome. Oh man,
Oh,
if
yeah,
anyone
I was
had it
happy.
coming.
Rebar through the chest.
It was
is
almost
the way
as
to
cool
go.
as the
Yeah.
fiery arrows at the beginning of the
Yeah,
season.
when
that went
Frogurt
through
gets
the
Frogurt.
Yeah.
Frogurt and Arnst.
Which I was
Two
reading
best
that
guys.
actor
Arts
came
is the
back.
best death ever.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I was reading that the actor who played Frogurt played another role this season, but I wasn't
Really?
sure what it was. He's apparently
just be one of the extras kind of things.
Well, he's one of the Dharma Institute apparently, but they changed his look completely. And
okay.
Maybe he just had a contract he needed to fulfill, but he couldn't be that character anymore.
I got the
so
feeling
maybe
they felt kind of bad because he was supposed to be there.
He
from
got
the
screwed.
beginning.
He got
Oh,
a
was
lot
he?
of his
Yeah.
episodes, and he got a lot of his scenes cut, and that was the only time we'd ever seen him for real was when he gets stabbed by a fiery arrow.
And it was awesome.
Ever since the beginning, he's been under contract.
Yeah,
He
because
didn't
he was
get
writing all
anything
this stuff
for
like,
this.
I got a big role. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved
but think about it. If you're that guy who you're not getting a lot of work, you're like, I was on Lost. Really, you were? Who were you? I watched
I
Lost
was
all
the
the time.
guy that got
I was Frogurt.
shot by the arrow.
Frogurt! Fuck, dude, I love Frogurt.
Oh yeah, am I hired? No.
But I love.
No, but yeah.
I do love that they brought Rose and Bernard back. I was
Oh,
crying.
yeah,
It
that
was
was
so
great.
sweet. I loved it.
Even though there was something kind of almost
Weird about him.
dark about them, like in a way that's
I like the
very
Grizzly Adams beard on
atypical.
Bernard.
I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Is it really Rose and Bernard? Is that actually
Oh,
them?
Rose and Bernard are going to become Adam and Eve.
And there was something about that whole moment
Lock
when
that down
she
as a-
offered Juliet tea. Said, no.
Yeah, I was like,
stick around, have tea.
Don't,
and there's
'cause
this
I
whole
know
thing
you're
that
gonna
feels
die.
into that whole free will thing that they kept bringing up this
Because
episode.
they're like Claire when she came back when she was dead but still there.
right.
Wait, she hasn't come back though. We haven't seen her since.
No.
the end of
But
what
there was a
season?
point when the house blew up and she should have by all rights have been dead, and yet she shows up one more time before she disappears.
well,
Wait, I'm confused. When was this again?
Last
This is
season.
at the end of season 4.
Yeah.
That's whenever she goes away with Christian Shepherd. And
oh
then
yeah,
you see her in
Claire's,
Jacob's
Claire's
cabin.
dead.
Yeah.
Claire's a ghost, walking
But
ghost.
how did she die though? Are they
She
gonna-
died in that when
the
when
house blew up.
Wait,
the
Jacob's
militia
cabin?
people, Kimi and his crew, came and attacked Darmaville or the other town. Is that
Oh,
what
that's
the
right.
other
That's
town?
right. That's right.
Darmaville, yeah.
Darmaville, in the-
He
she's in
blew
the
up the
house.
house, and she somehow she's like unscathed, and Sawyer goes and picks her up, which
Yeah.
is bullshit. She must have died, and like the smoke monster just came and took her place.
I don't know. I still think that's arguable, that one.
But what about
No,
Aaron?
at,
Because
at that point, I was like, she's so dead.
At the very
and then
beginning.
he finds her like completely untouched.
I assume she was dead until the whole "I'm going back to the island to find Claire" line from
But
Kate.
at the very beginning of the series, though, whenever she's pregnant with Aaron, she sees that psychic, and he says it's imperative that you raise this guy.
Yeah.
And so she gets raised by, or the baby gets raised by Kate, which is a big problem. Then she gives him to Sawyer's baby mama, and now what's going to happen with Aaron and with...
Well, what about when Ghost Kate tried to steal Aaron from the grocery store?
Yeah,
Ghost
Ghost
Kate.
Claire.
Ghost Claire?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well,
yeah,
it's just
Ghost-
a woman
yeah.
who looked like
Yeah,
her.
Ghost
Exactly. I
Claire.
think there was something more significant to that scene.
But
than we-
apparently, Aaron should come back, though, because, I mean...
Oh,
there's
he's
that-
got to. He's the chosen
Yeah.
one.
Aaron and Walt are going to show up with like Gatling guns at
That's
the
what,
end.
that's what I'm
Kill all
expecting.
the kill
Wait,
Jingo.
Yeah, I
Walt,
wish
it's
they would
like,
bring Walt
Yeah, go ahead
back
and take
again.
Walt because he's way more than we expected.
Okay, guys. Well, what would we could go back and forth in circles here forever, but I don't have that much time to spend on this one. But so let's get right to the point. What were your favorite moments from this season?
Ooh, favorite moment.
This ending I
hard.
thought was incredible.
Incredible.
And I gotta say I loved the episode with LaFleur, the LaFleur episode where you find out that Juliet and him are together. I thought, as much as we love getting caught up in the mythos and trying to follow the mystery of everything, I thought that was a great episode of character development akin to, I guess, when they did The Constant, where you see Desmond and Penny's relationship. It caught me by surprise, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that those two really fit together well.
I mean, my two favorite moments is one is a Ben moment. There's so many Ben moments I love, but the one where he's sort of convincing people to go back to the island, and Son and Jack are in the car with him talking about what a shithead he is. When he turns around like, if you guys could stop talking shit about me long enough to recognize that I have saved your life several times through this whole trip,
Right.
And the other thing was when is with Jack and Sawyer, when Sawyer's all like, "Yeah, Jack, on my watch, I got the job of being the leader, and nobody's getting killed." And Jack's like, "Okay, whatever."
It was
Enjoy
like,
it.
well, yeah, I guess you're kind of right. All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I have a theory about
Peace.
that, by the way, that they did go back to the 70s with a bunch of long-haired hippie scientists on an island. I mean, the reason he's so laid back and then suddenly heavily philosophical is because he's smoking a lot of pot. That's why.
Well, I love that reversal of roles where and Sawyer's all trying to like go, shove it in Jack's face, and Jack's like, "Whatever, dude, I don't care."
Well, it was the late 70s, so Coke was coming in. Maybe Sawyer was doing that. Mary.
Well, for me, the part this season that just gave me the most chills was the episode "This Place Is Death," where Charlotte dies, and you start to figure out that her and Jen...
some chocolate?
No, there's a
Ruining
part-
her moment.
Shut up, Grant. No, anyway,
No,
so
you
she...
do it like this. Shut the fuck up, Grant. I will fight you.
Ah, that's what I missed.
Anyway, the episode, This Place Is Death, where Charlotte is bleeding to death out of her nose, and she's going to die, where she makes it open that she and Jin can communicate because they both speak Korean, but it's just whenever she passes out and she's got this ghostly pallor to her, not to mention it brings the blue out in her eyes and makes her just look completely scary and creepy, and she's like mumbling something to Jin in Korean. She's like, "This place is death," and that just, oh God, put chills down my spine.
There's more to be
And-
told about her.
Yeah,
I
and
suspect.
also when Faraday, there's just a whole time and back and forth thing with Faraday and Charlotte, because her very last words before she dies is, "I'm not allowed to have chocolate before dinner." And when Faraday goes to talk to her as a little girl, apparently this scary man that frightened her as a kid that she just now remembers, her very first words to him as a little girl were, "I'm not allowed to have chocolate before dinner."
Just gave you the chills a little
But
bit there.
still,
Plus-
such a corny line.
Charlotte is a ginger, which is creepy.
That's
in
what I
itself.
was going to say. Oh, my God. That's hysterical. Well, some of my favorite moments this season were funny-oriented, although I'll start off with the one that creeped me out, but in a good way. I never thought I would have wanted to see Anna Lucia again, but her brief appearance
Oh, yeah.
where
As a
Curly sees her
Oh, yeah.
was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
it was
was.
just a hell of a way to bring it back.
She
to-
says, and Libby says hi.
Yeah. Oh my God. Did you not? I'm getting the chills now just
Yeah,
thinking
me
about
too.
that. I was like, oh my God, that was an amazing moment. But really, what my favorite thing about this season was the bringing back of Hurley as a funny character again. Because
Where he
hadn't
throws
been
the Hot
funny
Pocket.
for a while. Well, all through this whole
Him
season,
and
he's
Miles, their
hysterical.
dynamic.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
they're a great comedy
Yes.
team.
Oh my God, the whole thing thing with like Star Wars about the, from the from the
Ewoks
Hoth
suck, dude.
episode. That was brilliant. The
Some
whole point
like it.
where he's arguing with Miles about time travel and he totally pwns him.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You could change your own diaper or hold baby you.
I mean, that's just great stuff. And we haven't seen Hurley be really funny for a while. In fact, he was kind of whiny and annoying there for a while.
The brother had some issues.
Yeah. Well,
I
they
mean,
brought him
he's
back.
seeing dead people.
And now we know why he's been back this season, why he's back to old Hurley, because all those issues got resolved for him right before he left
Well,
to come back to
it's
the
also
island.
great hearing him and Miles compare their abilities to talk to dead people.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah,
yes, that was
that's
But
not
he
how
knows
it works
his
for me, dude.
It's like, I think my powers are cooler than yours.
No,
Yeah, that
but I
was too
still
cool.
love that part where he's making a hot pocket in the kitchen. He turns around, and he sees Ben, and he gets scared and
Throws
throws it
the
at
hot
him.
pocket. I know.
That's a great internet gif if you can find it.
Yes, I have that one. It's lovely. In fact, I might use that one to put that one up on the discussion just for the hell of
You
it.
should.
Oh, I'm sorry. Another great moment for me was the fact that Ben, when he gets on the island, the way he starts manipulating Caesar, just for no fucking reason, he starts lying just because that's just what he does.
And you find out that the whole
Caesar's a red
thing
shirt.
was totally unnecessary. He kind of just did it because he likes doing it. Yeah.
And he says to Flock, to Son, I lie. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
who-
she says I lied whenever she beats him in the back of the head with the oar just to.
Yeah.
Was that her? I forgot what it was they said when he told her something. She's like, "You expect me to believe that?" And he's like, "No, not really."
Yeah. He knows it. He knows
He's
he's
like,
a faker.
"I don't even believe the shit I say."
One last thing before we have to cut this off. What do you most hope to see happen before this show ends?
Ooh, well, got to see the reuniting of
Son and Jen.
Son and Jen. That's the
Yes.
main thing. I want peace for Jack.
He's your favorite character?
He is.
Yeah, and I think that, well, it's been said many times, he's the only actor in the whole show who knows how it ends. He doesn't know all the points, how it gets there, but he knows what the ending is. He said he's had the last episode described to him in detail of how it ends. So, which it means he'll be there. I
And
assume.
as far as Jacob and Mr. Dark or Flock or whatever, I hope they both die.
Yeah.
I hate both of those guys.
I was
Well,
gonna,
one is dead.
I was going to say, I think one of my goals we discussed earlier, Leon and I feel the same way about this, is that regardless of whether or not they die, I just don't want them to have a Battlestar Galactica ending.
I
where
was
they're
just about to say that. I hope the
I
ending.
still don't know what the ending is. to
Well,
this.
I'm just say it's Deus Ex Machina-ish. It's like it's that whole God is all powerful.
Yeah, I just
and
hope they
whatever
don't
God
cop
does
out and
is
get
right.
lazy with the writing. I really
Yeah.
hope it's an epic battle, the ultimate showdown of ultimate destiny, whatever you want to call
I mean,
it.
the fact that the whole thing is like is sort of a big one of the whole show is about versuses in themes. You know, it's black versus white, or if it's free will versus predestination, or
Right,
what
faith
science
versus
versus
science.
faith. It's about a lot of those things. In the end, I want it to come out to sort of, well, you can have both, but only if you do have free will, like for real, and none of this manipulated bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see both these gods get put in their fucking place and man ascend to his rightful place.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's so many mysteries. I want them to wrap them up. I
Same
want
here.
them to wrap them up in a nice, clean way that they've been doing for this season. I think with a lot of things, it's like what as soon as they introduced time travel and started showing things, I thought it was a great plot device for them to explain a lot of the backstory history of the island, and they weren't really sloppy with it. Which I mean, time travel can get really tricky, I think.
Yeah.
But I would love to see the history of Richard and understand why he can live forever.
Right.
Jacob and the smoke monster, of course. But the numbers, I think, and I think if they could figure out a way to explain the numbers properly, that would be really neat. Ghosts, why some people are seeing ghosts.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's part of the smoke monster thing, I think. But
I mean, I think the relationships come naturally, but it's the mystery that makes this show so different.
Mary?
I said it. I was going to say it whenever you talked about the no BSG ending, because I just want everything to, the story to end how it's supposed to, just as long as there's continuity, find out why things are the way they are, what's the significance of the characters, and I just don't want them to succumb to lazy writing, really. I just want it to be a nice ending that works, and one that it doesn't have to be happy. It could challenge you a little bit as well, but I'm really up for it. I'm open. I don't really care.
You
what
want
they do.
them to do what they're gonna do.
Yeah, I
without
just want
us.
it. Just let them do what they're gonna do, and then we'll decide the rest if it was appropriate or not.
And then she can go later. She can go, see, I totally called it. Like, what? That's so vague.
I would just, you know what, Mary, I'm totally with you. I'm like, look, if you're looking at other series, look at 6 Feet Under. Look at The Shield that had great endings.
I haven't finished The Shield yet. So.
But also,
I'm just telling you, it's got. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It has a really good,
that's what everybody
satisfying
says.
ending. No Sopranos, no Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
Wrong way to go.
Want it to do whatever it's going to do, because at this point, I don't like to think too much about what's going to happen, because as much as fun as it is that we're doing this now, I like to think about it after the fact, because I kind of want to be surprised. I don't want to think too hard. Well, because I was completely surprised by the fact that Chang was Miles' father. It never occurred to me, but everybody else is going, oh, I figured that out a long time ago. But I don't want to figure this stuff out. I want to be surprised. I don't want to think about it.
Says a person
then
who
you're like
analyzes
me.
everything.
Because I don't understand, because that's the way I am. I like to be surprised. I don't want to figure things out. But you seem like you're more like the analytical.
Us doing this,
but
podcast
I like
is
to see,
obviously
because
us
everything
wanting
I've been
to
reading was
unravel
after the
the
fact.
mystery.
It was all about after it had already happened. So that's why I just want to. I like to read it over just to kind of piece everything together thoroughly. Because when after you finish an episode, your brain is just mush.
I think there's a huge amount of satisfaction in having figured it out. And
I
then
like
it
to be
happens and
surprised.
you go, fucking A, I totally called that.
I
And
don't
that's
want
fun.
to. I hate it when people spoil it shit for you. I don't want even people to tell me what they think. I just don't want to hear it, because I honestly want to be surprised.
I like listening to Grant with all his machinations, all the stuff he comes up with. But for me, when I figure something out and then it actually plays out that way, there's a little piece of me that goes, "Aw."
You know, what's the name of the dog?
Really, I
in there?
go, yes.
Oh, Vincent.
Okay, now you notice we hadn't seen Vincent for a very long time until
True.
after Flock reappears. What I want to see at the end is it turns out that Locke's soul went into the dog, and he is Vincent.
Like
and then
in
Vincent
Fallen.
comes and attacks the
Like in
nemesis.
Fallen,
and
whenever
kills him and
the
then turns
demon
back.
goes into the cat.
He turns back into Locke at the end.
dog takes
That's
it,
totally
flips
going to
a
happen
knife.
too. I can see that happening.
I would like to revise my answer. What I want to see is once it ends, I want it to be so good and so intriguing that I want to go back and rewatch everything and see all the things they did and piece together all the hints they gave and it all to make sense in the bigger picture.
Yeah, and hopefully it won't end in a giant explosion like all the other episodes do. Every episode season ends with something blowing up, like the biggest plot element of the thing blows up.
Well, except for the first, whenever they were trying to leave, and then they
the boat
they
blows
got
up.
hijacked.
No, they blow up the hatch.
Yeah, the hatch
and the boat blows
is
up.
the first one.
There's
Every
two
single
explosions.
season ends with the explosion, which I don't know how that's going to work.
Wait, what was the end of the third
Hold
one?
on, man. Something might be wrong with this recording. There's some blinking light on the screen doing something. Oh my god!